With the 15th pick and with the 26th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Washington Redskins select Dwayne Haskins, Montez Sweat.
Welcome, all my fellow Redskin brethren and sistren. I am your man and resident Redskins fan, Luke. Thank you for joining me here on the Redskins Report Live. A lot of things to get to tonight. Ron Rivera spoke, had a media scrum, 30 minutes on Zoom just yesterday, or was it 2 days ago? I think it was yesterday. Either way, lot to discuss from that. I've kind of combed over some of that, talked about it in the video. I took the biggest excerpt from that and did a video on it, the one that kind of stuck out to me the most on the number 2 overall pick. I also touched on his thoughts on free agency, and I kind of heard more of the interview that he did. So looking forward to that. And I'm pretty sure we'll touch on that at some point tonight. And I also want to talk about the D'Angelo Hall comments. I really, it doesn't motivate me, doesn't move me at all. I've already told you that, what time of the year it is. And, D'Angelo Hall has done a really good job post NFL playing career of stirring up drama, of moving the needle per se. And that's no different than what he's doing now. He did it on his podcast with the Trent Williams situation. He's doing it now on the NFL Network. And we're talking about him, right? So he's done his job. That's what they're looking for, eyeballs and ears. And he's getting a little bit of both. So if you guys want to talk about that, I'm open for business with that as well. But I want to have a larger discussion on Dwayne Haskins because it's been eating at me over the last couple of days, just listening to people talk and talking to some Redskins fans. And I'm at a loss, really. And I just want to know why he's so polarizing. We'll have a deeper discussion on Dwayne tonight at some point. Looking forward to doing that. Before we get to any of that, though, I do want to address and say my piece on the passing of Bobby Mitchell. It saddened me to hear the news, and for those of you who have been following me, have been watching, have been a supporter of this channel for a while, my dad is a Cowboys fan, a massive Cowboys fan. So is my mom. She's not really a Cowboys fan as much as she is whatever team I'm rooting against fan. So she's more of a Cowboys fan, though, because she likes to root with my dad against me. So that makes her a Cowboys fan. Either you're with us or you're against us. So my sister's a Cowboys fan. My other sister's a Falcons fan. A lot of you already know that as well. But I'm the lone soldier in the family as a Redskins fan. And I'll tell you a quick story. The reason why my dad is a Cowboys fan is because he would always tell me as a kid, your organization is racist. That's why I can't stand them. And that's why I became a Cowboys fan, to root against them. And they were the chief rival of the Redskins. And so I became a Cowboys fan instantly because of your racist owner. And he was the one who told me when I was a kid, your team was the last to integrate. And the guy that broke the color barrier for the Washington Redskins was one Bobby Mitchell. Now, he wasn't alone in that achievement. There were other black players along with Bobby Mitchell that came in that Cleveland Browns trade that got Bobby Mitchell to Washington. But he was the face of breaking the color barrier with this organization, and rightfully so. He was the prominent player in that deal. He was the centerpiece of that deal that allowed the Redskins to move their number 1 overall pick from Syracuse to the Browns in exchange for Bobby Mitchell and several other black players. But that's nor here nor there. What Bobby Mitchell meant to this organization. George Preston Marshall was an overt racist. All right. The owner of the Redskins at the time, overt racist. All right. And would tell anybody that wanted to hear about how he didn't think black players added any value to the league, that they didn't belong in the league, and that the Redskins didn't need black players because it was going to hurt his customer base. So long story short, yeah, our organization was the last to integrate, and they didn't want to do so. George Preston Marshall did not want to have black players on his roster. He did it out of necessity. He was forced to add black players to his roster, or else the federal government was going to take away his stadium because it was on federal government ground. So all of that is in history. You can look it up. You can search it. But I've heard this from my dad, a lot of this stuff. So I was privy to a lot of this information growing up, but what Bobby Mitchell wasn't just a dynamic football player, which he absolutely was. If you go back and watch, it's amazing. And I listened to a lot of people talk. Doug Williams spoke very highly of him very recently, but listening to guys like Jim Brown talk about Bobby Mitchell's impact over the years and how he was a trailblazer in the league, it speaks volumes as to his impact, not just on the NFL, not just the Redskins, but really in society. I mean, you think about in 1962 where this country was and how there was a divide between, the races and what he essentially did. He was really the Jackie Robinson of this Redskins organization. I mean, no black player had really graced this organization, and he came in and he did it with style and grace. And to go through what he went through, talking about being spit on, talking about being hated by the other white players on the team and really being exiled and all the things he had to put up with, and then to still go out, do it with a smile on your face, and put up over 1,300 yards in back-to-back seasons was just remarkable is what it was. To hear the things that he had to go through, and I've always said this, and I don't want to turn this into a political show, so I'll try to make this as brief as possible. But what black people and people of color had to go through in those days, the 40s, 50s, 60s, and even into the early 70s. And obviously there was struggle and strife way before that, going all the way back to slavery and things of that nature. But what they had to endure in those times, man, they were tough. We always talk shit as, black people now. Oh, man, when you watch a movie and it gets those juices flowing and you get upset. And you think to yourself, man, we wouldn't have put up with that shit. Oh, yes, the hell you would have, or there would have been consequences and repercussions. And it was a different time. And black people, man, they were just so strong. And Bobby Mitchell was one of the strongest to have to deal with what he had to deal with. And to hear him say, there were times where I wanted to fight back, where I wanted to lash out. And, I had to realize that there were people looking up to me. Little black kids that wanted to do what I was doing and saw me as a role model. And I had to make sure that I took them into consideration before I did anything. And so there were times where he probably wanted to get back at some of these guys or, some of these fans or, any of these people out there that were being ignorant at the time. But he couldn't. He had people watching him, and he knew that what I do is going to impact what these people growing up, looking up to me, are going to be able to do moving forward. And so, again, Bobby Mitchell was a pioneer. He was a trailblazer. This organization really isn't what it is today without guys like Bobby Mitchell. And you can't tell the story of the Washington Redskins without telling the story of Bobby Mitchell. And so to me, he's a guy that is one of the greatest Redskins ever, and it saddened me to hear of his passing. And I'm so glad that people like Doug Williams and Jim Brown are here to tell his story, because it needs to be told. And I'll, as a Redskins fan, I'll make sure I do my part to continue the legacy of Bobby Mitchell. I mean, the numbers he put up in the 60s when, throwing a football wasn't the thing it is today. Obviously the run game was the catalyst for success in those days. And for him to put up over 1,300 yards in back-to-back seasons receiving, and he was really more of a running back. It's just amazing to see what Bobby Mitchell was able to do and to watch some of those highlights, man. I think you could plant him in today's NFL and he'd be a beast, because he could run. And I know a lot of those guys were probably slow as hell back in those days, but he made them look slow. And that's what you're supposed to do. If you're fast, make them look slow, and he did. So, and anyway, may Bobby Mitchell rest in peace, and forever you will be in our hearts. Hail. But I wanted to also talk Dwayne Haskins tonight, and at some point we'll get to that. But as always, I'm going to open the floor to you guys. Make sure that you like this video, you subscribe to the Louis T Network if you haven't already done so. Looking forward to chopping it up with you guys. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, so many things have taken place. So many topics have been brought to the forefront that I think bear mentioning, and we'll do that at some point tonight. But I want to allow you guys to have the floor, and there are 3 ways to contact this show. Obviously, the first are super chats. Go straight to the front of the line via super chats. And so that is the number one way to get your comment read, or any issues that you may have, like the audio issues I was having earlier, or anything you want to bring up. If you have a point that you want to have heard, super chats are the way to have those done first and foremost. Secondly, are the phone lines, and I will go ahead and open up the phone lines right now. Number is now on the screen in front of you. So if there are no super chats, then we will open up the phone lines and we will get to the phone lines. And make sure if you call in, you have a strong connection. Make sure that your volume is turned all the way up. Make sure that you know what you want to speak about. Be concise and straight to the point. And make sure that you're able to convey your message so that everyone, not just myself, can understand and join in on the discussion. So make sure that if you're going to call in, all of those things are boxes that you check off. And then finally, lastly, the comment section. Use the hashtag LouisTLive to have your comment read on the air. And if there are no super chats, if there are no phone calls, we will get to the comment section. Make sure you use the hashtag LouisTLive and make sure you like this video. With that being said, let's get to the comment section and see if you guys have any comments. So we start out the night with Rob U. Thank you for the super chat, Rob U. Greatly appreciate it. And Rob writes, always love the work you put in, man. Your thoughts on Prince Tagu Wananago out of Auburn. It's funny that you bring him up. He is literally the next guy that I have on my list of tackles to watch. So tune in tomorrow night on the draft live 101 series that I will be doing on the tight ends and the offensive line. So I will definitely be able to answer that question because I'm going to knock him out with a number of other offensive line prospects tonight and into tomorrow, and be ready for the show tomorrow night. So he is the next one on the list. But I can tell you some things that I've learned in my prep work watching. Before I watch the film, I like to kind of get my hands dirty on these prospects, kind of find out what their background is. And he's actually literally a prince. Like, his grandfather was the king of a village. This is a guy that came over from, I want to say, Nigeria, I think is where he came from. Don't quote me on that. But he was a basketball guy. You know, he was a basketball player. He came over here to play basketball. And he went to Alabama, not the University of Alabama, but a high school, a prep school in Alabama to play basketball. And he really took up football as a way to stay in shape for basketball. And it became more than just a way to stay in shape. It became more than just a hobby. It became the way that he felt like he could, provide for himself and his family moving forward. And thus, he became a football player, and the rest is history. So I'd imagine that he's probably a little raw because he started late in the trade, playing football. But he's a big kid, got a lot of athleticism. Usually, if you play ball, and he gained 50 pounds while at Auburn in his time there. So that tells you that he went from a slender, big basketball player, but probably more like a 2-3 guard or so, to a big hulking offensive lineman. So I can't wait to watch his tape. I'll have a lot more for you on him tomorrow. So please join me tomorrow night when we're talking tight ends and offensive linemen. Thank you for the super chat, Rob U. Let's see. Next super chat from Ty Kwawi. Sorry, I jacked that all up, Ty. Greatly appreciate the super chat, Ty. Thank you for the super chat. Really greatly appreciated, Ty. Kahi. Got another super chat. This one from Ainsley Chance. Thank you for the super chat, Ainsley. Greatly appreciated. Ainsley writes, the only way Haskins' top talk will stop is if and when he proves himself. And that's a very valid point. What I don't understand, Ainsley, is all of the, I don't want to call it hate, but because that's the easy way out. I hate when people, every time someone disagrees with something, you're hating. Like I did an Atlanta Falcons video earlier about their jerseys, and because I don't like the jerseys, I'm hating. Oh, these jerseys are fire. You just hating. I'm a hater, and so no, I'm not a hater. I just don't like the jerseys. I don't have any problems with the Atlanta Falcons unless they're playing the Redskins. My sister is a Falcons fan, so I have an affinity for the Falcons. Michael Vick is from the area. He's 757's own, so there's an affinity for the Falcons there as well. I just don't like the jerseys. I'm not hating. And so when people disagree with Dwayne Haskins being the Redskins starting quarterback and don't think he's the guy, I'm not calling them haters, but there is something that just keeps gnawing at me, and that's, how do you know he can't be the guy? I mean, seriously. We saw Dwayne Haskins for 7 starts last year. 7. Was it even 7? I don't even know if he got 7 because he missed the final 2 games, or was it the last game of the season versus Dallas that he didn't start? I want to say 7 starts. It might have been 6, but at the end of the day, it's not enough. It's not a large enough sample size. And then when you take it a step further and go back to his Ohio State days, he only started for 1 year there. I mean, this guy hasn't played a ton of football since high school. And yet everyone's rushing to judgment on this guy. He can't do it. And it's not just the fans. There's players out there that are talking, ex-players and not current players, but guys that I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, where is this coming from? What's the basis here? So there's so much I want to talk about with Haskins, but we'll continue to take these super chats and we'll get around to it at some point tonight. Thank you for the super chat, Ainsley. Ain't no half stepping. Thank you for the super chat. Ain't no half stepping. All right. Appreciate the super chat. Ain't no half stepping writes. He hasn't won a division game and swears he's better than the other quarterbacks drafted before him with an in-game selfie on his record. Win the division first. I get all of that. That has nothing to do with the fact that people think he can't play and that he needs to be replaced. It's one thing if you don't like the way he's handled himself. He needs to grow up and mature. I get that. He's 22 years old, though. I mean, think about it. Put yourself in his shoes. Now, and I get it. Some of you are very mature or were very mature at 22, or you perceive yourself to be very mature if you haven't hit 22 yet, and you think to yourself, I wouldn't be doing the things he's doing. I wouldn't be as sensitive on socials, and I wouldn't be taking selfies with fans and things like that. Maybe you wouldn't do all of those things. But guess what? Not everyone matures, and this is one of those life lessons that I like to throw out every now and again. And I tell the kids this, I tell the youth this of America. Not everybody matures at the same rate. All right. Some people have to grow up faster than others. And I talk about this, and I told you, to me, sports is a microcosm of life. And I've told you guys this before. This isn't new. This isn't a new message that I'm giving you guys right here. This isn't a new gem I'm dropping on your melon. I've told you this before, that in the NFL, players develop and mature at different rates. No two players are alike. Just because Odell Beckham Jr. comes in the league and hits the ground running doesn't mean that, Terry McLaurin has to do the same thing. Or just because Jarvis Landry comes in and balls right away doesn't mean that the next LSU receiver, Justin Jefferson, has to do the same thing. Like, it takes time for some of these guys to come in here, whether it be physically with an injury or something like that, or mentally for you to get the playbook and digest it. It just, for everyone, it's different. Some guys learn one way, some guys learn another way. Yada, yada, yada. You get where I'm going with this. And with Dwayne Haskins, it's just amazing that people, take things like that. Oh, the selfie off the field and some of the things he says on Twitter and some of the things that he does on socials that rub people the wrong way. That's fine. He's young. These things take place. They happen. That has nothing to do. Those are separate entities. It has nothing to do with Dwayne Haskins, the football player. You may not like Dwayne Haskins, the person off the field. And I don't know how you could come to that conclusion either, because you don't know him, but that's fine. You don't have to like him. I do it all the time, okay? I'm human. All right, there are people that I have no idea how they are in person. I've never spoken to them, but I think they're assholes. I think John Elway is an asshole. Just listening to people talk about their interactions with him and stories from multiple people, I think John Elway is an asshole. And the way he conducts himself and the way he talks and how smug he is, I think John Elway is probably an asshole. All right, but guess what? I don't know him, but that's the conclusion I've drawn. But that doesn't mean John Elway, the football player, wasn't amazing and one of the best quarterbacks to ever play in the National Football League. The two are separate entities. I just don't understand why people like to draw conclusions about Dwayne Haskins and what he can provide on the football field based off of things they've seen off the field. I just don't know why they won't give this man a chance to prove that he can or he can't. Everyone wants to jump to the conclusion that, you know, and I say everyone very loosely. If I'm talking to you, then I'm talking to you. If I'm not talking to you, then I'm not talking to you, okay? But you get where I'm going with this. It just bothers me, you know, that D'Angelo Hall feels like, and again, I'm not going to kill D Hall. He's doing his job. His job is to create noise, to create attention, all right, to grab eyeballs and ears and help the NFL Network drive more traffic to their channel. He did his job. We're having a discussion about what he said about Dwayne Haskins. But the fact that he can say that, you know, Dwayne is afraid of competition and that he suffers from what a lot of young players suffer from, and that's like competition anxiety, and that he just wants it given to him. Maybe that was the case when he first got here. I think he felt like, and I don't blame him. He looked around and he said, Case Keenum on one side, Colt McCoy on the other. These are two chumps. All right, they've been in the league. They had their chances. I'm the guy. They drafted me in the first round. I'm the guy. And he probably thought he was just going to walk in here and the job was going to be handed to him. But that doesn't mean he's not a competitor, okay? That's not what that says. He didn't sulk. He didn't put his head down. He just wasn't putting in enough work. It's totally different than sulking. You know what sulking would have been? You know what being non-competitive would have been? At Ohio State, when he had to sit behind a guy that he was way more talented than JT Barrett for 2 years, you know what he could have done? He could have entered his name into the transfer portal and went and played somewhere else. That's what a lot of these young players, that's what these young boys do. That don't want competition, that want jobs handed to them, that don't want to battle it out. He had to wait his turn behind JT Barrett and then beat out Joe Burrow. They didn't say, hey, Dwayne, you waited 2 years. Here's the job. No, he had to beat out Joe Burrow. And you know what Joe Burrow did? He transferred and went to LSU. No knock to Joe Burrow. Not to say that he doesn't like competition, but he saw the writing on the wall. If I stay here, it could be another 2 years before I get to play. I'll be a senior. I won't even get a chance to show my talents. Dwayne Haskins could have did the same thing, but he embraced competition. And he stayed, and it got him a first-round selection. I just don't understand how people can say that this guy isn't competitive, which I think he is very competitive. I don't see how people think that he can't play. You haven't seen enough of Dwayne Haskins to say he can't lead this team. He can't be a franchise quarterback. Makes no sense to me. All right, I can understand if you don't like some of the things he's done off the field. I can understand if you don't like the league done messed up. That's fine. All right, that's not for everyone. Didn't bother me one bit. All right. He put a chip on his shoulder, and I'm one of those guys. I put chips on my shoulder, all right? The Senior Bowl told me I couldn't go. That shit is on my shoulder right now, and I'm going to carry it for the rest of my life. That they told me, no, you're not good enough to come to our event and interview these players. So that shit is on my shoulder. So I don't have a problem with him saying the league done messed up. I said on my podcast, the Senior Bowl done messed up. So if you're a competitor, You carry around those chips. Michael Jordan used to take any shred of competitive advantage he could get. He got mad at Jeff Van Gundy because Van Gundy said he butters up the other players and that the referees, he caters to the referees so he gets calls. It was not really much of anything, and Jordan took that and blew it out of proportion and dropped 50 on the Knicks because of it. When you're competitive, you take any shred of competitive advantage, any fuel you can, and you put it in your tank and you use it. So I don't have a problem with that, but some people do. Fine. That doesn't mean he can't play. It just bothers me that people D'Angelo Hall wants to throw this false narrative out there, and other people keep saying it's Redskins fans, it's Jeff Bostic. I mean, where is this stuff coming from? Oh, he can't play, he can't do it. What? How do you know? He's got talent. You've seen him for 6 games, and the last time I checked, and I listened to the last staff, Bill Callahan and company, talk about how this guy doesn't make the same mistake twice, and we watched it with our own 2 eyes. We watched him struggle in his very first preseason game versus the Browns. We watched him get better the week after versus Cincinnati. And we watched him play even better than that the week after versus Atlanta. Like, we saw the maturation in the preseason. Then he regressed because he didn't play. And I don't think he was in the playbook the way he needed to be. All right. That's on him. That shows a lack of maturity, which I'm acknowledging. He needs to mature. All right. He's a young guy. He's 22. All right, but I'm not making any excuses for him. He'll figure that stuff out. And he's got good mentors. That's why Sean Springs is on the artwork, on the thumbnail for this. Because to me, that's the most important guy in his corner right now. Outside of his dad, mom, all of those people that he looks to as a support base. I'm talking about from a professional standpoint, Sean Springs has been his mentor since he was a little kid. And Sean Springs is the perfect guy because, as we've heard when he said that Dunny was below average, Sean Springs doesn't hold his tongue for anyone. And I don't always agree with Sean Springs, but at least I know he's not going to be over there on some Robert Griffin III bullshit, telling him what he wants to hear. You know, boosting up his ego and telling him he's never wrong. He's going to tell him, bruh, look, kid, this is what you got to do. All right, you got to tighten up. And Doug Williams going to tell him the same goddamn thing. And I love the fact that those two are in his ear. And they've both said the same thing. This kid is competitive. He's a great dude. Great dude. Not a good kid. A great dude. All right. And all of these false narratives out there couldn't be further from the truth from who Dwayne Haskins is. So it just bothers me that people like to take a lot of this nonsense that they're hearing and just say he can't play because of it. And it's low-hanging fruit. It's lazy. And 6 starts, 6 or 7, whatever the number is. Really? He can't do it? And again, and I was going to say this, and then I kind of went off on a tangent. Did he not get better as the season progressed? Did we not see him go from the Detroit game, to the Carolina game where he didn't throw any interceptions, to the Green Bay game it was hit or miss. It was spotty, but he got banged up in that game. I saw some toughness from him in that game to get banged up, come back and gut it out. And then the Eagles game, he was outstanding in that game. Almost won us that game. And then the Giants start to that game. Did we not see progression that says, hey man, this guy's got something to him, yet he can't play? I just, for whatever reason, it just is really getting annoying to this point now that there's still Redskins fans that they want Tua. Why would you want a guy? And I get it. Tua's really talented. He's got injury concerns. What don't you understand about that? Like, he couldn't stay healthy in college. What makes you think that he's going to stay healthy at the NFL level? They're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. Why would you want a guy that seems that he's breakable? We've had that here. His name was Robert Griffin III. Why would you want Robert Griffin III had a torn ACL in college. Guess what he got here? All right? He shredded his knee here, as a matter of fact. It wasn't just the ACL, it was the MCL, it was the PCL, ICL, any LCL you can think of. He did it. Why would you want to repeat that? Again, we talked about history earlier tonight. And if you don't learn from your history, you're doomed to repeat it. Why would you want to go down that road again? Yeah, Tua is really talented. So is Dwayne Haskins. Anyway, I'm sorry. Thank you for the super chat. Ain't no half staffing. Andrew Thompson, my man AT. It seems like it's been a while, AT, man. Thank you for the super chat, though, AT. AT says, people out here talking like Kyle Allen finished strong and Dwayne was benched for bad play at the end of the year. I just don't get it. Shaking my head. Rip 49. Yes, rip Bobby Mitchell, man. May he rest in peace, man. Rest in paradise, Bobby Mitchell. But again, yeah, to hear Dwayne, and this is what I'm talking about, this false narrative. D'Angelo Hall's talking about this really good backup quarterback that they bought in that's breathing down Dwayne's neck. Kyle Allen isn't all that great. Don't get it twisted. Kyle Allen is average. And he made it seem like we brought in Cam Newton or Teddy Bridgewater or something. We brought in Kyle freaking Allen. All right? The guy that we played against, that we ate up, that we sacked like 8 times, that threw like 2 or 3 picks in that game. Yeah, that same Kyle Allen, the one that fumbled at the end of the game. That Kyle Allen. Yeah, that guy. He's solid. Okay, I've watched him play. There were games last year where I thought to myself, man, this guy's actually pretty good. You know, against Arizona on the road, shredded him. At Houston, I thought he played well. He fumbled the ball, did some things, but they won. At Green Bay in the snow, thought he showed some moxie in that game. He played some really good games last year. And then there were some stinkers. That's what you get from young players, though. I'm not mad at Kyle Allen. I like Kyle Allen. He's not better than Dwayne Haskins, and he's not breathing down his throat. What are you talking about? And he made it seem like he was this 7-year veteran that has experience and has done some big things in this league. Kyle Allen was average last year. Okay, spare me. So, anyway, I digress, man. Thank you for the super chat, AT. I'm with you all the way, man. And look, let's not bash Kyle Allen. He's a part of the family now. He's one of us. All right. But I'm just saying, and this doesn't have to turn into a Kyle Allen versus Dwayne Haskins discussion, because as far as I'm concerned, there is no discussion. Dwayne's the starter. Kyle Allen was brought here to be a backup. But he's a part of the family now. But Dwayne is clearly the better of the two, if you ask me. So let's continue on. Got a super chat from my man BD Barrett Downing. Thank you for the super chat, Barrett Downing. Barrett writes, thanks for speaking on Bobby Mitchell. He was beast mode before beast mode was. Respect for all you do. No doubt, man. And I definitely had to speak on Bobby, man. The guy was a trailblazer. And, you know, forget about what he did on the field. He was probably even better off it. And the fact that the Redskins disrespected him over and over and over again. I mean, he was the first assistant general manager in this league of color, you know. Before there was Ozzie Newsome and, you know, all these other guys that had a chance, Rick Smith and all these other GMs that got an opportunity to do it as a black GM, it was Bobby Mitchell. And he was an assistant, and he wanted an opportunity to be the Redskins general manager. And after they got rid of Charlie Casserly, they had an opportunity to promote him to general manager and remove the assistant title, and he got passed over. You know, and I think he even got passed over before then when Bobby Beathard moved on and they gave it to Charlie Casserly. He could have gotten it then too. I mean, he was passed over several times. And so he was bitter about that. He had every right to be. And then, you know, the final straw was, of course, when they gave his number away. That's when he retired in 2003, when Spurrier gave his number away to Stevens. So Bobby Mitchell was a great guy on the field, off the field, and again, he will be one of the greatest Redskins ever, and his legacy will remain strong. But thank you for the super chat, BD. Really appreciate that. Anyhow, Trevor Patch, thank you for the super chat, Trevor Patch. Greatly appreciate it. My man Trevor writes, Ron's plan. Heard here first. Hashtag Louis T Network. Haskins got a bad deal last year. Give him another year. If it doesn't work, then he'll be in the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. Hashtag HTTR. Hashtag in Ron we trust. And that's what Sean Springs essentially told him. Like, look, man, don't pay attention to all this outside noise. All right. Like, I didn't love the fact that after the D'Angelo Hall comments, he goes on to socials and ats him, I can't stand fake love. Or he may not have added him, but I can't stand fake love. And you know who he was talking about. I don't care for that kind of stuff, you know, but I get it. I understand where he's coming from. If you felt betrayed by that comment, you know, that he essentially is saying that you're afraid of competition and that you want the job handed to you and you're not going to handle it well. Yeah, that's derogatory. I can see where Dwayne's coming from there. But make no mistake about it. You know, Sean Springs told him, look, you think it's bad now? You don't play well this year, and you're really bad like you guys were this year, and you get a load of that Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. then see what happens. So he knows what's at stake. All right. And I think this guy is more than capable of getting it done. And not just at a, middle of the road league average rate. I think he could be one of the better quarterbacks in the league. He's got the talent to do so. And I think he's got the drive and the determination to do it as well. And I think a lot of the people in the media, some of these fans out here have given him all the ammunition, all the fuel that he needs to go out and prove everyone wrong, man. I'm looking forward to it. You get the weapons around him. They got to protect him. All right. And, and they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do at left tackle if Trent's not going to be here. And we don't know how that situation, because it went really quiet, really mum on the Trent Williams front. And I think it's because we're getting closer to the draft. And I think the Redskins are going to kind of wait this thing out and see what happens and see if anything comes about the draft and if they're able to move him on draft night. If not, maybe after the draft, a team misses out on a tackle that they were looking for, and maybe Trent's the option there, or they just hold on to him. They have the leverage. He's under contract, so we'll see what happens. But in any event, they got to protect him, and they got to surround him with weaponry. And once they do that, I think he'll be successful. But I think he's going to get more opportunities because I think this defense is going to be better. And that's why drafting Chase Young is so important. Thank you for the super chat, Trevor Patch. Greatly appreciate that. And I don't think just a year is enough. Like, that to me is hogwash as well. The man hasn't even started a full season. If he's solid next year, but he doesn't knock your socks off, he should get another year after that. And then if he's not good, then that's when you start having a conversation. Like, when did it become okay to give a guy 1 year? Like, I told you, the precedence that the Cardinals set last year is a bad one, man, because it's making fans even more impatient than they already are. I remember when you used to draft a young quarterback, they had a rookie contract that had them under contract for 5 years. You got the club option for that 5th year if you wanted to pick it up. But that guy would get every bit of 3-4 years before you said, all right, this can't work. And I'm not saying that's the right way to do it. But what I am saying is you got to be more patient with these guys. Drew Brees, remember, Drew Brees was not good in San Diego in the first 3 years of his career. That's why they drafted Phillip Rivers. Like, you have to give guys a chance to develop. I don't understand why people don't understand this concept. It's not hard. Damn, it's crazy to me. Anyway, thank you for the super chat. Mark Mullinex, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate that, man. Thank you so much for the super chat. Ainsley Chance, double up, for my man Ainsley Chance. Thank you for the super chat. Once again, Ainsley writes, real quick, I want to talk Bryce Love. Will he make it on the field this year? Really tired of people just taking up cap space. Also, team predator. So Bryce Love isn't a first round pick. He's not making a boatload of money. Like, the cap savings you would get from moving on from a Bryce Love isn't worth moving on from a guy that is young and talented and hasn't really had a chance to prove himself by no fault of his own. He got injured. Like, these things happen. He's not a guy that you would deem a cap casualty or someone that you got to move on from, like Josh Norman, for instance, who's making an absurd amount of money and not living up to the price tag, and you got to move on from him because it just doesn't make any sense for all parties involved, other than Josh Norman, of course. So that's not what Bryce Love is. He's on a rookie contract. He was a 3rd or a 4th round pick, whichever one. It doesn't matter. Neither of them are going to pay you a whole bunch of money. And so, and usually in those rookie deals, you really don't start making good money until the back end of that contract. So Bryce Love isn't a guy you need to talk about cutting at this point, whether he's healthy or not. I don't know if he's going to get on the field. My assumption is that he's going to be ready for training camp. All of these guys that were banged up, Darius Guice, Bryce Love, Reuben Foster, I'm hearing, will be ready for training camp as well. All these guys, I expect, if training camp were to start on time, which is going to be late July, I expect every single one of those guys to be ready for training camp. Now, how you handle them in training camp and in the preseason, whether you do it with kid gloves or not, is optional. It's up to the staff to monitor their situation, how they go through a full hard day of practice, and then how the knee responds, or things of that nature. Is there swelling? That kind of thing will determine how much work that they get. But Bryce Love isn't a guy you need to think about cutting at this point, unless he continues to get hurt and it's just not worth it at that point. But he's going into the second year of a 4-year rookie deal. There's no reason to think about cutting a Bryce Love anytime soon. So if you want to talk about guys eating up cap space that's not performing, that's not where you need to be looking on a guy on a rookie deal going into the second year. Bryce Love is intriguing because we saw the talent, 3 years ago at Stanford. Should have come out in the draft 2 years ago. Decided to come out last year, and he paid for it because he tore his ACL. He didn't have the kind of year that he had the year previous, and so the guy's talented. And I'll take it a step further. Usually with these types of injuries, you don't see the explosion and the dynamic ability come back right away unless you're Adrian Peterson and you're a one-of-a-kind, unique kind of physical specimen. I don't know if that's what Bryce Love is, but generally you got to give these guys time to get back to trusting in their knee and also to get that explosion back, to get that burst back. And so I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't look like the Stanford Bryce Love right away. Give him some time, though. Give him some time. Thank you for the super chat, though. Once again, Ainsley Chance. Got another super chat. Protect Sports. Thank you for the super chat, my man. Protect Sports Tones. Good looking, man. Protect Sports writes, love the competitive nature. I'm the same way, bro. 100. And that's the way it is, man. I can't look. Everyone doesn't have that gene. Everyone is not overly competitive. I once beat a 4th grader in tic-tac-toe, and I wanted to let her win, and I couldn't let her win because my competitive nature wouldn't let me. It's a sickness, all right, is what it is. And that's how I describe it, because sometimes I can't even just have fun because I'm too damn worried about winning. And it is what it is. It's who I am, and I'm not ashamed of it. And I think that Dwayne Haskins has a lot of that in him as well. I don't know him personally, but I know the dude is competitive. So I just hate the fact that people have this notion out here and this groupthink mentality. Oh, he's not competitive. Where are you getting this from? I just don't understand. Anyhow, thank you for the super chat, Protect Sports. Greatly appreciate that. See if we got any more super chats. We do. This next one is from my man, Ray Riley. Thank you for the super chat, Ray Riley. Greatly appreciate the super chat, Ray Riley. My man, Ray writes, 3-way trade scenario between Washington, Detroit, and Miami. Miami gets the 2nd overall pick, drafts Tua. Washington gets the 3rd pick and the 26th overall. Detroit gets the 5th and 18th. Thoughts? That sounds good. All right. It really does. But here's the thing. I'm down for it because in that scenario, you still get Chase Young and you get an additional 1st round pick. But here's the thing. I'm in my mind, this is what I think that the Dolphins are thinking. They're like, look, we didn't stink. We didn't trade all of these assets. We didn't trade all these young players away for draft capital to then give it away to then go up and draft a quarterback. Like, I don't think they're wholesale sold on Tua to the point where they feel like they have to come up to number 2. I honestly believe that the Dolphins aren't going to move from 5. And I think, and I'm going to ask this question on a different show, but I'm anxious to know if people feel like because of the unique set of circumstances surrounding the Rona this year and how the draft has been affected and it's going to be a virtual draft, and, all of your evaluators and all of your scouts and your team officials aren't able to link up together. Everybody has to be in their own separate facility, home, wherever. Is this going to impact the way teams maneuver in the draft? Are you going to see less trades? Are you going to see more trades? I think you're going to see less movement. I think that's part of the reason Rivera said we're going to find out how good of an evaluation team they have this year, because I don't think you're going to see a lot of movement. I don't think you're going to see a lot of teams hopping around the draft board, making a bunch of moves because of this new world order that we're in with the draft this year. I'm anxious to see what you guys think and the rest of the football fans out there think about this draft. I know in my mock draft, I'm going to just tell you right now, spoiler alert, I'm not having the Dolphins trade up. I don't think anybody's coming for 2 or 3. I don't think you're going to see as many trades. Now, I'm not saying there won't be any trades, but I think the Dolphins are looking at it like, we're not giving up all these 1st round picks. We traded for all of these to put ourselves in a position to speed up the process, not to give them all away just to draft one guy that probably won't be able to play in 2020. No. So I don't think the Dolphins are giving up, 18 and 26 and looking to move up to get a quarterback. I think they're thinking if Tua's at 5, great. Because guess what? The Redskins aren't taking a quarterback at 2. The Lions aren't taking a quarterback at 3. And the Giants damn sure aren't taking a quarterback at 4. Somebody would have to leapfrog in front of them, which is the reason you would go up, is to avoid someone leapfrogging you. But if you just sit still, stand pat at 5, somebody you like most likely. Now, you may like Tua way more than you like Justin Herbert. You may like just Jordan Love better than you like Justin Herbert. And you feel like if we can't get Tua, we'll take Jordan Love. Whatever the case may be, whatever your cup of tea is or your flavor is of ice cream, either way, the Dolphins, to me, are going to sit still. I don't see them moving up, personally. But in your scenario, I would love it. It's beneficial for all parties involved. Dolphins get what they want. Now, again, the Dolphins are saying it's not beneficial for us. The only thing we net from this whole thing is getting Tua. But we still got to give up both of our other first-round picks, and I'm not looking to do that. But they get what they want in Tua. We get what we want in Chase Young and pick up an additional first. And then the Lions still get a top 5 player and they pick up an additional first. And a good one in the middle of the first round at 18. I'm all for it. I would love that trade as a matter of fact. I don't see it happening, however. But I'll be all in favor of it. I'd love the idea. It's one of the best ones I've heard. All right. But I just don't see it transpiring that way. I don't. So thank you for the super chat, though, Ray Riley. I love the idea. I hope that the Redskins are pitching it to the Lions and the Dolphins. I'd love to see it happen. Personally, the only reason I'm vehemently against trading back is because I don't want to miss out on Chase Young. You tell me I can trade back, still get Chase Young, and pick up an additional first-round pick. What's not to like? Thank you for the super chat once again, Ray Riley. Mark Mullinex, thank you for the super chat once again. Double up, for my man Double M Mark Mullinex. Mark Mullinex writes, it's sad and people harp on what he wants, or what he did once. My thing is, you can separate the two. If we're talking Haskins and whether you want to talk the selfie or you want to talk about his movements on social media, or even if you want to talk about his unpreparedness when he was thrusted into the game versus the Giants or thrusted into the game versus the Vikings. Whatever you want to speak on, I understand all of those things. However, you can't just take those isolated incidents and then take it and be able to extrapolate that he can't play at a high enough level and that we need to replace him after just 6 games. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I'm all for rational opinions. It's when you start being irrational and you get in your feelings and because you don't like somebody or all of that stuff. When that stuff starts, when it becomes personal, all right, that's when I got a problem. Because business is never supposed to be mixed with personal. Sometimes the two intermingle. Usually that's not healthy. All right. But generally speaking, you got to be able to separate the two. Get out your feelings. All right. Get out your feelings. Thank you for the super chat, Mark Mullinex. Let's see. We got any more supers? Yeah, we got another super chat here. This one from my man JP. John Perez, thank you for the super chat, JP. My man John writes, Haskins was put into a bad situation with a bad coaching staff and a toxic front office, and yet he still played well when he got his chance. And a lot of people seem to just forget about how this organization really did him dirty early on. I mean, the fact that Jay Gruden wanted nothing to do with him, and I thought it was unfair to Dwayne Haskins to put him in the situation that he was in with a lame duck head coach that was coaching to save his job, that wasn't looking to play a young guy. Hell, wasn't even really looking to get him any reps and get him prepared to play. And I don't blame Jay for that. Jay was trying to save his own ass. He was trying to save his job. So Jay wasn't looking to develop a young guy because he wasn't going to be here to be able to take advantage of the fruits of his labor. He said, look, I'm not getting this guy ready to help somebody else win. I'm trying to save my own job. So Jay wasn't interested in developing Dwayne, but what I didn't like that Jay did was when Jay took it upon himself to then make sure that everyone else knew that he didn't want Dwayne. Like, that wasn't necessary. That doesn't benefit anyone involved. He's here now. Deal with it. Yeah, you probably would have much rather drafted a player that you felt like could come in and help you right away. Well, guess what? They did you a favor. They traded back into the first round and got Montez Sweat. All right. At the end of the day, you needed to make Dwayne feel as comfortable as possible, whether you were going to be here or not. He's part of the team now. But Jay made it known to anybody that would listen, I didn't want this kid here. All right. And Jay said prior to the draft that Dwayne was going to take work. He'd much rather have Drew Lock. And that was my guy. But he much said Drew can come in and play right away. Dwayne can't. So he'd already made it known that he wasn't a Dwayne Haskins fan. And then when they took him, Jay didn't do him any favors. This organization threw him under the bus. There were leaks, and people were talking this and that. And then the whole situation with him coming in the Giants game and people talking about how, and again, these are leaks coming out of Redskins Park. It was so leaky, the old administration under Bruce. It was so leaky. It was ridiculous. But, then there were the reports that he didn't have a work ethic and this guy wasn't prepared to come in and play. And those things were probably true. But guess what? That shit stays in house. You don't make that available to the media. You don't tell people so they can leak it to the media. You don't do that. Not with your first round pick. He was put in a bad spot. He was put in a rough spot. And I'm glad you brought that up, JP, because he was. This organization did him no favors. And yet, as you mentioned, as the season progressed and he got in the game and he continued to get reps, he played better and better and better. And you can't tell me at the very end that you didn't say to yourself, even if you were the staunchest of staunch Dwayne detractors, you can't tell me that after watching him in that Carolina game and then watching him in that Philadelphia Eagles game and then watching him in the first half versus the Giants, you can't sit here and tell me that you didn't say, well, goddamn, if he continues on this track, maybe we got something. I'm not saying you have to be sold on Dwayne. All right. I'm not 100% sold on Dwayne, but I am sold on giving him a fair shot. But you can't tell me after watching that stretch at the end that you didn't say to yourself, well, shit, maybe there is something here. I want to see more. If you can sit here with a straight face, look me dead in my eyes, and tell me that after the Eagles game, which he was damn near flawless, and then the Giants first half, and then think to yourself, I want to see more. I'm not sold, but I want to see more. If you didn't say that, then I can't help you. You just don't want to like him. And whether it's the Joe Theismann jersey situation or the selfie or the league done messed up or the promoting Haskins and Haskins online or whatever it is, you got to let that go, man. That has nothing to do with the production on the field. You can feel how you want to feel about Dwayne Haskins off the field. It's separate from the football player. I know a lot of guys that have played with, against, or been around Aaron Rodgers can't stand him, think he's not a great leader. Greg Jennings will tell anybody that will listen. All right? Not a great leader. Jermichael Finley said the same thing. All right? And look, those aren't the greatest sources, those two guys, but still, it's more than one person. And maybe Aaron Rodgers is, to a degree, an asshole. He doesn't even get along with his own family. I don't know the background behind that. I don't know the story. All right? But I know he doesn't get along with his family. When you can't get along with your own siblings, with your own family, your own mom and dad, there's some issues there, man. And it's not just them. Some of it is you, probably. that doesn't take away from the fact that he's the greatest quarterback I've seen in my life. All right? And I watched a lot of Dan Marino. I watched a lot of... Dan can't do what Aaron Rodgers can do with his legs. Dan was never running around throwing BBs 50 yards down the field on a rope, a frozen rope. All right? Now, Dan was a hell of a quarterback. But he wasn't Aaron Rodgers. All right? Now, Aaron might be an asshole. But you can separate the two. And that's all I'm saying. Anyway, thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate that, JP, man. Thank you for the super chat. Some great points you brought up there. Got another super chat. This one from my man, Martin Matthews. My man, Eminem. Martin Matthews, appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much, Martin Matthews. My man Martin writes, "Hey, Louie, make me a millionaire at 22. I would act like a damn fool. I like to think that at 22, I would have been really... Hey, let me read the rest of your super chat first, and we can get into that. He says, I would have acted like a damn fool. We saw Haskins improve after a few starts, and yet we saw Peyton Manning be awful his entire first season. Aikman, awful. So give Haskins a fair shot, Skins fans." Absolutely, and this is what I'm talking about. In 1989, when Aikman was drafted and the Cowboys were awful and they were 1-15, I think the year before they drafted him, or it might have been 1-15 that year, they drafted hm, and he played, and then they got Emmitt Smith and a bunch of other guys in that 1990 draft, whatever the case may be. Aikman, they didn't kill Aikman, and maybe they were killing him back in Dallas in those days, but he got a chance. And look, I told you it's a different day now. People are more impatient than they ever have been now. Peyton Manning was awful. People don't remember this. Peyton Manning threw like 28 interceptions in his rookie season. All right? Drew Brees threw over 20 interceptions like twice in his first 4 or 5 seasons in the league. Like, people don't remember these things because they have selective memory. But yet, they expect Haskins to go out and blaze it right away, or else he's got to go. Because that's the new thing now. That's the new norm. No, it shouldn't be. If it is, it shouldn't be. Because that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. All right? Like, we don't come to your job and say, hey, I need you to be performing at the level of the top guy or gal at your job after one day, or else we're going to have to fire you. I'm sorry. After your first week, you need to be performing at that level, or we're going to have to let you go. Like, that's insane. That doesn't make any sense. And so I just feel like there are too many people out here piling on this guy for reasons non-football related. If you want to talk about some of the decision-making on the field, he's a rookie. These things happen. He literally had a new coaching staff in season. Like, that's not conducive to success. But it actually made him better because the staff that he was working under before could give 2 shits about his success moving forward. And the best thing to happen to him was the fact that Jay Gruden got fired. And that Bill Callahan became the head coach. And that they were able to give him a shot. So I'm with you. And back to your point about being 22 and a millionaire, I'd like to think that I would have been mature with my money, but it's easy to say it because I don't have millions of dollars in the bank, you know? But there's a lot of shit I'd like to buy that I probably would have splurged on if you gave me a couple $1 million in my pocket, okay? So, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you too are like that. Everybody wants to buy their mom and dad a house, you know, or whomever is a significant contributor to your upbringing, grandma, aunt, uncle, whomever. You want to provide for them. You want to be able to tell them you don't have to work anymore. You want to go out and buy them a vehicle. You know, whatever you feel like is the thing that helps you show your appreciation for all they've done to help you get to that point. You want to be able to provide that for them. So it's easier said than not. You know, I can sit here and talk about what I would have done, but I'm not in his situation. I just know that he's young. It's going to take him a little while to grow. Everyone matures at a different rate. And I think that this guy has what it takes to get it done on the field. So anyhow, thank you for the super chat. Martin Matthews, my man Eminem. Raymond Gibson, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate the super chat. Raymond Gibson, my man Ray writes, speak your facts. I agree with you 100% on draft picks. That's just how I think it's going to go, man. It'll be interesting to see how everything kind of unfolds as we get closer to the draft. I think we'll get a sense for if teams are going to be willing to move around come draft day. But right now, I don't know if things are going to change. I can tell you this, on draft picks and their maturity level, it's not the same for everyone. I just want to see people have more patience. Like, we're in this microwave society now where everybody wants instant gratification. They want it now. Like, this isn't Little Caesars, man. You're not walking in and getting a hot and ready and walking back out the door, bro. Like, chill. It's a process, man. Like, Ron Rivera told you that. Like, I don't know what you're expecting, but on that conference call he had on Zoom with the media, he said, look, because they asked him specifically, what should the fans expect in terms of a timetable for the turnaround for this organization? He's like, look, I don't really know, what exactly to tell them in terms of a timetable. I'm not going to sit here and tell them that we're not competing this year, but I'm also not going to sit here and tell them that, we're going to win a Super Bowl this year. What I will say is that we're going to try to make this happen as soon as possible, but it's a process. That old dreaded P word that a lot of you like to run from. It's a process. You can't run from it. It's how you win in this league is you go through a process. Some people go through the process a lot faster than others. All right. But at some point, the process is going to jump up and bite you in your ass. Okay. Sean McVay skipped steps when he got to LA. Oh man, the division title in the first year, Super Bowl in the second. But guess what the process did? They said, man, you skipped too many damn steps when you got here. Now I got to come back and I got to bite you, bruh. And what happened last year? They hit some growing pains. They may hit more next year. The process, all right? They won and they thought, all right, this is how you win. Now they're going, I'd rather go through my process at the beginning, personally. Let me get mine out the way, and then I would like to have uninterrupted success moving forward after I go through the process of building a winner. Then I want to sustain it. I'm not looking to win, then stop winning, and then try to find a way to win again. All right? Find a formula that works, which is building a culture. Rivera's not looking to build a roster. See, this is the difference between Bruce Allen and all of the years of suffering under Allen and Ron Rivera. Allen was looking to build a roster. That's why every year he would tell us we're close. Because he felt like if I make a tweak here to the roster and a tweak there and we stay healthy, we can win. That's false. What you need is a culture. What you need is a program that players can believe in. All right? Not the roster. And the roster matters. No, don't get it twisted. You need talented football players to win this league. But you also need an identity. It's the reason why the Baltimore Ravens are good almost every year. And the players may switch, but the identity remains the same. You come to Baltimore and there is a level of expectation in a way, in a brand of football that they play. Steelers, same way. They had injuries. Ben Roethlisberger they were playing with guys that probably shouldn't have been in the league. Duck Hodges, starting quarterback. Mason Rudolph is terrible. He's terrible. And yet, they were on the doorstep. They were knocking on the playoff door. And had we had 7 teams like we'll have this year, they would have gotten in. They had to go on a 2-3 game losing streak at the end of the season to not make the playoffs. You know why? There is a culture in Pittsburgh. He was dealing with Antonio Brown's crazy behind, Le'Veon Bell being disruptive, and he still won. And then they got rid of them, and there was no drop-off. Next man up, because it's a culture that's set. It's ingrained. That's what we're looking to develop. That's what Rivera is looking to develop right now as we speak. And I love every second of it. It's what we've lacked since Daniel Snyder took over this team. Accountability and a culture that says, this is Redskins football. We had that when we won and won and won over and over and over and over and over and over again when Joe Gibbs was here and Bobby Beathard and company were here. We had an identity. It was the Hogs. We won with Joe Gibbs won with 3 different starting quarterbacks. Who's doing that? Who's doing that? You know why you can't do that? Because teams in today's day and age, first of all, there was no free agency, okay? So you could build a juggernaut and keep that team together. But the biggest difference is we had an identity. We knew who we were. We didn't try to be anything other than what we were. Beat you up on the ground with the Hogs, all right? And it didn't matter who was running the rock. You know, Timmy Smith, Ernest Givens. I mean, it didn't really matter, all right? Or excuse me, Givens, Ricky Irvins, excuse me, all right? Ernest Biner. I'm mixing up names. It didn't matter. Riggo. Joe Washington. It didn't matter who was behind that offensive line. Gerald Riggs. It didn't matter. We were going to run the ball. You couldn't stop it. You knew counter Trey was coming. Those 2 damn guards in the tackle, they were pulling. Joe Jacoby and those guys were coming for your ass, and there wasn't a damn thing you could do about it. You knew counter Trey was coming. You couldn't stop it. We had an identity. And then guess what we were going to do off of that? Play action fake. Whether it was Mark Rippon, whether it was Joe T, or it was Doug Williams, you couldn't stop it. You could only hope to contain it. Because you had to saddle up to stop the run. And the minute you got nosy, where's Ricky Sanders? Gary Clark running behind you. There's nothing you could do about it. We had an identity. We lost that identity somewhere along the way. All right. And it happened long before Daniel Snyder got here. All right. But we lost that identity. And now I don't know if we're going to have that same identity. But I just like an identity. Something that we can call our own. I think we have a chance to get that back. And Ron Rivera isn't looking to build a roster. Okay? He's looking to build a culture. That's how you gain substance in this league. The Patriots won not because of their roster. That shit changed every year. And they had players that would not be successful on other teams. But you know what they built? A culture in New England. You can call it you can call it cheating. You call it what you want. I know I call it winning. 6 Super Bowls and an AFC championship just about every goddamn year. Call it what you want. But it was a culture. You listen to guys that played elsewhere that go to New England, they say, it's different in that building, man. It's just different. I want here, and I'm not saying I want to be New England, but that's the blueprint now. I want the Redskins to identify themselves as a premier team in this league, and they have to establish an identity first. And so I'm looking forward to it, man. I can't speak for you guys, but I am. And so Raymond Gibson, I thank you for the super chat. Andrew Thompson, double up, for my man AT. Thank you for the super chat. Andrew Thompson, my man AT, with the super chat. Greatly appreciated. My man AT writes, wow, he said, it has been a while. The Rona been hurting business. Has it ever, man? I totally get it. A lot of people are struggling right now with the Rona, man. It's again, it's something we haven't seen in this lifetime. You know, if you're old enough to know about some of the older diseases that brought the country to its knees, I can't speak of those. I can only tell you I've never seen anything like this before. And most of you out there haven't either. So anyway, he says, I feel better about Ron's plan now that I know he's playing the long game. But he says, I still think he's undervaluing the tight end position. I think a great tight end would help number 7 a lot. I agree. I concur. And I think they're going to get a guy that they like in the draft at some point. Is this a great tight end draft? No, it's not. But there are some guys, after further consideration, I'm still adamant that there isn't a first round tight end in this draft. I told you that from the jump. Now that I've had a chance to watch, I'm doubling down on that. However, there are a number of guys that I think could fit into this scheme, can help, can do some things. There's one in particular that I'm salivating over. I'd like to get my hands on, but I don't think we're going to be able to do that. But I'd like the chance. I'd like him to be on the board. And if the Redskins pass on him, so be it. That means they weren't as interested in him as I am. But you'll have to tune in tomorrow for that when we talk tight ends and the offensive line. But I too feel like I don't know if they're undervaluing the position as much as they just weren't willing to spend on the tight end position. You heard what Rivera said, that they weren't willing to pay Austin Hooper what he got in Cleveland, and they weren't even close. He said he said his market value went up quickly and high, and they just weren't willing to go there with him. And so I think we kept saying the number was 10. That number wasn't $10 million per year for Austin Hooper. That number was more like 7 or 6. Like, they weren't even in the ballpark with Cleveland. Like, I don't think they wanted to pay Austin Hooper anywhere near what he got. I think maybe if a guy like Hunter Henry was available, they would have been willing to pay, but they weren't interested in paying him that salary he got whatsoever. So I, like you, think that there is a hint of them not really understanding how big the tight end position is for a young quarterback and how that's a safety valve and a safety blanket for a young quarterback. But I think they said to themselves, we'll get a couple of guys that we think could come in and compete, but we're going to draft someone. I think they're going to draft someone. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they decide to do, who they identify as a guy that can come in and help. And I have no doubts in my mind. The starting tight end of the Washington Redskins is not on the roster right now. I've stated that. Now, maybe he won't start week 1, but the guy that we're going to look at as our starting tight end for years to come isn't on the roster right now. I feel really confident in saying that. So, and I said that after all the free agent moves were made, and I feel that even more so now. They're going to do something at tight end. So, thank you for the super chat, Andrew Thompson. Really appreciate the super chat. Let's see if we have any more super chats. Got another super chat. This one from Raymond Gibson. Double up, from my man Ray Gibb. Hey, really appreciate the love, Ray Gibson. Thank you for the super chat, Raymond. My man Ray writes, showing much love and respect, keeping me connected, cause I'm still working through all this COVID-19. Thank you so much. Let's go HTTR. As am I. I'm out here on the front lines. I'm not. I shouldn't say that, because the medical staff and the medical workers, they're on the front lines. I'm on the back. I'm on a back row, but I'm still out there braving the elements every day. But I'm thankful that I'm able to work, and I talked about that on my podcast. I'm not going to do that here and bore you guys with that, but I really appreciate the sacrifices that you're putting out there, to help support your family and the things that you're doing. And just ask that you stay safe, man. Take every precautionary measure possible to keep you and your family and your loved ones safe. And I thank you for your contribution here on the Louis T Network, man. I really appreciate that from you and everyone else as well. Got another super chat. This one is from Martin Matthews. Double up, for my man Eminem. Really appreciate it, Eminem. Martin Matthews, killing it tonight, man. I appreciate you, Eminem. My man Martin writes, hey Louis, I've seen Coach Gibbs build his Super Bowl team with the Diesel. I've seen when Gibbs had control and no one complained. Ron is the closest I've seen in years to building a team since free agency. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing what Gibbs and company were able to do. Gibbs 1.0, that is. And when Gibbs came back around, it's crazy because even though Joe Gibbs was somewhat behind the times when he came back, like free agency, everything was new to him, and they were running around signing everybody, and he was fascinated by free agency and how it worked because it wasn't around the first time he was the Redskins head coach. Think about it. He still went to the playoffs 2 times in 4 years. What other coach has done that during the Dan Snyder era? Or for that matter, since Gibbs 1.0, how many coaches have went to the playoffs for this organization twice in 4 years? I'm waiting. The answer is nobody but Joe Gibbs. So even though Joe Gibbs, I think, left here with a losing record his second time around, Joe 2.0, he still was better by miles than anybody else that was coaching here, other than probably Marty Schottenheimer, who got a raw deal and didn't get a chance to see his vision for this organization through. Like I said, man, I feel that Rivera is the closest thing we've seen to Gibbs as well. I don't like comparing anybody to Joe Jackson Gibbs because he's sacred for me, and what he has done for this organization will probably never be duplicated. I'd love to see Ron make a run at it, but I just want him to reestablish the Redskins as a credible, dignified, but more importantly, a winning organization. And however he has to do that, sign me up, But I want this organization to be respected again. Right now we're a laughing stock. For whatever reason, what am I saying? I know why. I know why people look at the Redskins and think that we're nothing more than bottom feeders of the NFC East, and why people think we're a joke. And rightfully so. We've earned everything that has come our way. We have. We truly have. And I'm ready for a change. And Ron Rivera, I've said this a million times on this very platform. I'll continue to say this. I thank Ron Rivera for choosing us. We didn't choose Ron Rivera. He chose us because he could have gotten work anywhere else. There were other opportunities available this offseason. Most notably, the Giants, because the guy that he worked with in Carolina, and Dave Gettleman, works in New York. He would have gotten hired in New York. I guarantee it. He also would have been a candidate in Dallas, probably in Cleveland as well. Like, he could have gotten a job anywhere that had a vacancy, but he didn't waste time. He didn't wait for those other opportunities. As he said at his press conference, this wasn't a money thing. If it was, I would have waited for other openings to open up and started pitting teams against one another. I didn't do that. I came here, I looked at this roster, I looked at this situation, and I chose Washington. And I thank him for that, because it's given me something I haven't had with this organization since 2012, and that's hope. And honestly, other than 2012, and maybe a ray of hope in 2015 with Kirk Cousins, and you like that, and the Code Red game, and looking at the roster and where we could have been if things would have been held together. And there was a ray of hope then, but 2012 was the last time I really thought we're on to something. But before then, you got to go back to Gibbs 2.0. What is that, 2004 through 2007? 2007, I believe it was. 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. That was the last time I had hope. Like, that's no way to live as a fan. So, Rivera's giving me something I haven't had in a long time, and that's hope, man. So, I'm really thankful for that. So, once again, I'm with you all the way. Martin Matthews, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciated. Sean Mack. My man Sean Mack, it's been a while. I meant to hit you up on IG too, man. And I keep telling myself, hey, hit Sean Mack up, check on him, make sure he's good. And I kept forgetting, man. And mistakes were made. So I take that one on the chin. That's on me. Mistakes were made. And it's good to hear from you, Sean Mack. But my man Sean Mack, thank you for the super chat. He writes, love to you and the family. Stay safe, bro. Hashtag LabRoomFam. Likewise to you and yours, man. Likewise to you and yours, man. Take it easy out there. Stay safe. Protect yourself. You, of all people, need to protect yourself. And I definitely got to make sure I keep in touch with you. Thank you once again for that super chat, Sean Mack. DMV fan 123. Thank you for the super chat, DMV fan 123. My man DMV fan writes, thoughts on Ron talking to Dan every other day? It doesn't bother me. It does not bother me that he said he speaks to Dan either every day or every other day. It doesn't bother me one bit. He said Dan wants to stay plugged in. He wants to know what's going on. I don't have a problem with that. I know some people, that bothers them to no end, and you're not wrong for feeling that way. But for me, I don't get bent out of shape about that stuff because I really think, and there have been people saying this. Tom Rivera has said this. I've heard other people mention this as well, that you got to make, Joe Gibbs has even said, I've heard that I didn't hear Joe Gibbs say this, but I've heard people say that Joe Gibbs has kind of in a roundabout way said this about Dan Snyder. You have to make him feel like he's involved, and you have to make him feel sometimes like some of these ideas are that of his own. And the way to make him feel that way is to keep him close. You know, there's this old adage, this old saying, you keep your friends close and your enemies even closer. I'm not saying Daniel Snyder's an enemy per se, but he's the kind of guy you need to keep really close to you because if you're not careful, he'll end up sticking a dagger in your back. So he could easily become a Judas Priest, if you know where I'm going with this. So in order to know at all times what he's thinking, you need to keep him close. You need to be keeping in constant communication. That's not to say that he's going to be involved in the input of what's going on. You just need to keep him up to speed on what's going on so that he feels like he's involved. He's not actually. It's like how you treat little kids when you want to keep them busy and you want them to feel a part of the action. You want them to feel involved. So you give them a really easy, out of the way task, but they feel like they're carrying a heavy load, you know? And so that's what you do with Daniel Snyder. You got to treat him like a little kid, all right? You're cleaning up the kitchen. You're washing the dishes. You're mopping the floor. And so, you know, the little kid wants to be involved. So what do you say? Hey, man, go throw this in the trash for me, all right? Hey, there's a piece of paper over there in the corner. Go pick that up and throw it in the trash. He feels like he's helping. He's doing a lot. He's really not doing much, but he feels like he is. And I think that's what Rivera's doing, man. And honestly, you've got to know how to control Daniel Snyder. And he's just playing the game. I feel like he's just playing the game. I have no problems with him talking to him every day. And as long as he continues to tell us, and this is the reason why I believe just about everything that comes out of Ron's mouth, is because Ron hasn't lied to me yet. I heard this from way before he became Redskins head coach, that Ron Rivera is a straight shooter. Pretty much tells you how he feels, shoots straight from the hip, not going to beat around the bush. You're going to know how he feels because he's going to tell you. And since he's gotten here, what have we seen from Ron Rivera? He shot straight from the hip. He said, I'm building a winning culture here. Some guys may buy in, others won't. The guys that don't won't be here. And so Quinn Dunbar is no longer here. He moved on from Monte Nicholson. Trent Williams doesn't want to be here. He's in the process of trying to move him. He's not taking any shit, man. He's changing the culture. Either you're in or you're out. He said, look, how many coaches do you know? And I found this very refreshing. Some of you may have been like, oh, he's divulging too much. How many coaches do you know after free agency takes place? And generally, coaches like to steer clear of talking about players that play for other teams. Usually that's tampering and all this now. So you don't really get these kind of direct answers. But he was asked on that Zoom conference yesterday about free agency and Amari Cooper and Austin Hooper. And I talked about this on the video yesterday that I did. But he talked about how they were all in on Amari Cooper. Who out there is telling you this? What coach do you know is saying, man, we really wanted that Amari Cooper pretty bad, man. Like, we really, really wanted him. We were all in. All right? A substantial amount of money was offered, and he decided to stay in Dallas. And that really hurt. Who's saying that? Like, if that's not Ron being vulnerable and telling you the truth, what is? I don't know what else is. And then for him to then, in the next breath, say, oh, Austin Hooper, we liked him. We didn't love him. Like, the money he got, good for him. We weren't giving him that kind of money. Hell no. No. Like, who else is saying that? Ron hasn't lied to me yet. So when Ron tells me, hey, look, man, in so many words. And I read you the direct quote yesterday. But when Ron in so many words says, look, if you trade number 2, are you actually getting the guy that we're going to get at number 2, or are you just getting a bunch of picks? Ron has told me all I need to know. Like, there was a commenter in the comment section that said, and he tried to say I was a hypocrite. And that doesn't bother me. I got thick skin. You know, when you've been doing this as long as I have, you either have to have thick skin or you got to just ignore that stuff. And I just got thick skin because I read all the comments. So he pretty much said I was a hypocrite. And I said it's lying season, and then 10 minutes later, I'm pretty much eating every single word. I'm hanging on every single word Ron Rivera is saying. And look, first of all, to comment on that, I have always said stated my position, which is the Redskins are taking Chase Young at 2. That has never wavered. You guys can back me up on that. I've never wavered on that stance. I've always felt like he was the pick at 2, and I really didn't want to hear anything else. But to take it a step further, I said it is lying season, and we are currently in the midst of lying season. That is fact. But I don't have a problem. I told you, in lying season, you believe what you want to believe. Believe half of what you see, none of what you hear, even if it's spat by me, your man, Louis T. That's the mantra. That's the motto. That's the lying season mantra here on the Louis T Network. You know how it goes. You've heard it before. You've heard it many a times. You'll hear it many, many more. But I also have a habit of listening to people that don't lie to me. All right? Up until you lie to me, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. I can be naive that way sometimes. Ron hasn't lied to me yet. Ron's shot straight from the hip. Bang, bang. I have no reason to believe Ron's lying to me. Thus, when Ron says, I don't think trading number 2 pick's the best idea, I'm like, that's my guy. That's what I'm talking about. So, anyway, I don't have a problem. To answer your question, I know I went all the way around the world to come back and tell you, I don't have a problem with Ron talking to Dan every day or every other day. Thank you for the super chat. Got another super chat. This one from GearCell1. Thank you for the super chat, GearCell1. Really appreciate the super chat, GearCell1, who writes, greetings from Washington State. Don't forget about Barry Wilburn, BKA will be burnt. Who do you think plays left tackle next year? HTTR, don't wear sweatpants with a dress shirt. That's great advice, by the way. Excellent advice. You know what? That's a great question. One that I don't have the answer to right now because I don't really know what the resolution to the Trent Williams situation is. I still think he's going to be traded. I do not think he's going to be here, but it's not 0% chance he's here next year, when the start of the season comes. Like, what if the silence that we hear right now, what if that's the theme with this situation moving forward and nobody's interested in Trent? No one's looking to bail the Redskins out of this situation and give them what they're looking for. And the Redskins aren't going to release him. And that would be the dumbest thing they could do. So I don't see them doing that. This regime doesn't seem to have dumb written on their forehead. So I don't anticipate them releasing Trent if they can't trade him. Ron Rivera said on the conference call yesterday, hey, he's under contract. He's still a member of the Washington Redskins, which is pretty much telling you, look, either we're going to get something for him or he'll be here. Now, if he chooses to sit out, that's on him. But as far as we're concerned, we got a left tackle right now. His name's Trent Williams. Until otherwise notified, he's the left tackle for the Washington Redskins. I think, though, that if something gets done, and I think they would like to know whether he's going to be here or not, and maybe it doesn't impact their thought process, in terms of the draft. Maybe they think to themselves, Trent's not going to be a part of the program, whether he's here this year or not. He's not going to be a part of the program moving forward, though. So we still need to draft a left tackle in this year's draft. That's very plausible. But they could also be thinking in the back of their mind, look, we just got off on the wrong foot with him. And if he plays here this year, he might like it. He might like the direction we're going in. And because really Ron has said, I'm not comfortable, and he said this yesterday, I'm not comfortable giving guys contracts that I don't know. Like, I told you that what Dunny said was pretty prophetic. Like, I said Dunny was on to something when he said that. And I kept repeating it over and over again because I said, I think Dunny is really saying what Rivera is feeling and thinking, but hasn't come out and said. Well, he said it yesterday. I don't know you. You don't know me. That's why I want these guys to come in and prove themselves. I just want to get a feel for who's who. We're not paying anybody because we don't know any of these guys. He's like, look, he said yesterday, I don't know Quentin Dunbar. And so we just got off on the wrong foot, and it kind of got to a situation where his representatives and Quentin thought it was best they move on. And so we did what we thought was best for the organization. We got good value for him and we moved on. But he's like, I don't know Quentin. I'm not comfortable giving him a new deal, and we don't know who you are as a football player. So, like, again, all of these things kind of fit in like pieces of the puzzle. And honestly, it'd be great if we knew who was going to play left tackle. And it'd be great if they knew what Trent Williams' status was moving forward. But I think the guy that's going to start for the Redskins at left tackle isn't on the roster right now, believe it or not, which is kind of scary to think that way. But whether it's a rookie, and Rivera also said yesterday, not afraid to play young guys. If they prove themselves, not afraid to put them on the field. Whether it's a young guy or it's Jason Peters or it's Donald Penn again, I just don't know if that guy is currently on the roster right now. So, wish I could give you something more, but right now that situation is just kind of in limbo. So, thank you for the super chat. Gear Sell 1. Really appreciate it. My man, Andrew Thompson, AT, tripling up. Thank you so much for the support, AT. Again, you're the man, Andrew Thompson, who writes, perhaps seeing years of failed quarterback projects has trained parts of the fan base and former players to expect failure at that position. All right, that's got to change. It's toxic. I understand that whole narrative and that whole premise of here we go again. All right. But at some point, and this is new, it's fresh, it's brand new, embrace it. You know, until Dwayne gives you a reason on the field, all right, to feel like he's a dumpster fire and we got to move on and he can't do it. I just don't love that thought process. I don't love that mentality of he can't play, let's move on from him after 6 games. Again, you may not love the things off the field. I agree. He needs to be more mature. And again, he's 22. Everyone matures at a different rate. I'm not going to kill him for that because I once too was 22 years old. All right? I know the level of immaturity that exists when you're younger. As you get older, you get wiser. All right? Some people get wiser sooner than others. All right? But at the same breath, at the same token, Dwayne showed us something on the field last year. Had he looked the same way that he did in the Buffalo start at the end versus the Giants, okay, I could see more of you feeling like this isn't enough. I needed to see improvement, and I didn't get any. Like, D'Angelo Hall made it seem like, in his comments, that there wasn't any improvement, that Dwayne didn't show you anything to make you feel like he was worthy of starting in 2020. Like, seriously, dude, did you watch the same Dwayne Haskins that we watched back end of the season? You couldn't have been watching the same football. And I know he knows ball. So I was disappointed to hear him say the things that he said. But again, I don't kill D'Angelo Hall because he's now a part of the media. He's looking for the attention. And any way he can get it, he's all for it. That's how you make bucks. It's why Stephen A. Smith is one of the highest paid. It's why Skip Bayless is one of the highest paid media members, all right, in television, because they get eyeballs. They get people to tune in. So I get it. I don't always agree with that, but I get it. I understand why you do what you do. I just don't like other people jumping on board with that thought process. Like, don't jump on that groupthink mentality when it's low-hanging fruit and it's false. It's a false narrative. So that's my problem. And yes, it is toxic. And no, I don't appreciate it. And again, some of this we brought on ourselves. When you have 20 plus years of losing embedded in your organization and you can't get out of your own way, and a lot of this is self-inflicted, this is what comes with the territory. All I ask is that as Redskins fans and people that support and love this team, that it's not self-inflicted, that we're not destroying ourselves from within. Let people on the outside tell us we're trash and that we're garbage and that Dwayne Haskins shouldn't be started. Let people on the outside say that. But we, as a family here, should be supporting. Even if you don't love him, if you want this team to win, you should want Dwayne Haskins to be successful. That's the quickest way to turning this around. All right? That's why I could never understand the whole Kirk Cousins situation. But that's another story for another day. I won't go down that path because I know what it's going to lead to. And I don't feel like dealing with that tonight. Even though, I go there with y'all. I don't need to do that tonight. Thank you for the super chat once again, Andrew Thompson. Really appreciate you. JP says, first of all, thank you for the super chat once again, JP. Greatly appreciate the super chat. John Perez, my man, JP writes, when we do draft Chase Young on April 23rd, you should do an entire video on him, including a full breakdown of his game tape and open phone lines. I don't feel that to be necessary. We'll have plenty of time to talk. And, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to continue to do Redskins content. I'm going to be doing the actual draft live, a draft party, as I always do here on the Louis T Network. So hopefully you guys will take in the draft with me and we'll watch together as the Redskins make that selection, along with the rest of the selections in the first and second and third rounds. I will be here for all of it. And then we're going to break it down. We're going to break down the entire Redskins draft like I did last year and the year before that and the year before that and the year before that. And we're going to talk about this and we're going to talk about Chase Young and we're going to break all of that stuff down, man. So in some way, shape, or form, everything that you just asked for is going to take place. So may not be all at one time as you're suggesting, but at some point, all of it will take place. So thank you for the super chat, JP. Let's get to any other super chats that we may have. All right, I have another super chat. Oh, man, this one from my man, Ricky L. Another guy that has been somewhat MIA, but never that far away. My guy, Ricky L, was going on. He's an Eagles fan. Y'all show him some love. Cut him a little slack, but that's my guy, Ricky L, man. Appreciate the love, Ricky L, and the support, man. Greatly appreciate that. And my man, Ricky L, thank you so much for the support. Writes, what's going on, bro? Just stopping by to show some love. Dollar amount is for your age. Hashtag Lab Room Fab. Hashtag my bro Lou. He's always killing me, busting my chops about my age. Some of the things I've done in the past. He always, and I've always been told that I'm an old soul. And I firmly believe that. I like older music. I study history very hard because you learn so much from what people have done in the past. And not always to avoid what they've done, but to maybe expound upon it. Like, again, I'm one of those staunch believers in you can't learn from your history if you don't know your history. You know what I mean? So he always is killing me about my age. And I'm not 45, okay? So let me get that straight right now. But anyway, it's all love, Rick, man. I appreciate you as always. Really appreciate the super chat, man. Good looking out. So let's see if there are any more super chats. There are no more super chats. So we can get to the phone line. You're on live with your man, Louis T. Who am I speaking with?
Hey, Louis, this is Calvin. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Calvin. Make sure you turn your monitor down in the background.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I agree 100% with you as far as Dwayne. He's 22 years old. He only had 7 starts. I wasn't a fan of drafting him when they did last year. I wasn't all that sold on him. Watching him in college, but as he played, I saw improvement, and he also surprised me with the mobility that he showed. Because I didn't see that at Ohio State.
Right.
But at 22 years old, I mean, there's like you said, some people mature faster than others. Has he made some mistakes? Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But just like you said, at 22, I probably would have been wilding out with the money, the women, all that type of stuff. It took me a long time to mature, as a man, and that didn't even occur until after I got divorced and my kids were in elementary school.
Right.
So it's
Exactly.
it takes time, and I still have my moments even now, and I'm over 50. So so it's maturity is a thing. But I think as long as he's given a fair opportunity, I think he'll shine. I mean, it's he's got a chip on his shoulder, and I like that about him. My son is the same way, and he played ball, and he always had a chip on his shoulder. So no matter what he's doing, playing ball or playing video games or whatever, he's got a chip on his shoulder. So I can respect that.
Absolutely.
On the other end, I wanted to ask you, what is your gut telling you as far as Trent? Do you think that he, that there's going to be a trade before or during or after the draft? What's your gut tell you?
My gut tells me that there's a trade during the draft. That's when, you've heard the saying, deadline spur action.
Yeah.
And the draft is usually, like, for instance, last year, that's when the Cardinals were able to offload Josh Rosen. Like when you're looking to move a guy and you've been holding on to him and you've put out feelers and teams know that you're interested in moving someone, the draft is usually the time when that takes place, because usually you're looking to get draft capital that you can spend now. A lot of times you're not looking for future draft assets. You're looking for something you can tangibly put your hands on right now and get value from right now. I don't know if that's going to take place, but you asked what my gut tells me. I'm thinking that's, if in fact they're able to move Trent, I'm thinking that's when it's going to take place, is during the draft. If you miss out, let's say you're sitting there with the 21st pick and you want to move up, but in this climate with the Rona and the way things are constructed, maybe you're not able to go up to 14 to get a guy that you want to get. And he ends up coming off the board before you can get him. And that was the guy you really wanted. And there were about 3 tackles and all of them are gone that you thought could really help you. And you feel like you can win now. Right. Maybe now is the time you pull the trigger on Trent Williams. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens.
Now, do you think that the compensation they will get back, do you see it being a 2, or do you see it being something lower than that?
They've said all along that they want fair compensation. And I think fair for them is something equivalent to a 2. Right. It doesn't necessarily have to be a 2. Yeah. It could be 2 3s. Yeah. You know what I mean? It could be a 3 and a player or whatever. It just has to equate in their mind to fair compensation. Okay. I think that the compensation will have to be somewhere in that neighborhood, though, for them to move on him.
Yeah. Okay. Now, off the subject of the Skins, since you've been sequestered in for the most part, what you got? 5 your top 5 football movies of all time.
Oh man, I think I've done a list on this before on my podcast. I'm not sure if I have or not. I got a weird list though, man. I got weird tastes. I enjoy movies that others probably wouldn't enjoy as much. I remember one time I saw a poll, and I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this because I know there are other people that want to get in and stuff. Right. But I saw a football movie bracket that was done by one of these ESPN, CBS Sports, Fox, somebody, one of these sports sites, and remember the Titans one. I was like,
Yeah.
what? And I like that movie, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
what? I've got several other movies that I probably put ahead of Remember the Titans, but that's another discussion for another day. Maybe I'll do that on the podcast.
I'm just curious because everybody seems to be watching movies. I'm a Friday Night Lights and and the program and Any Given Sunday type of person.
There you go. Program and Any Given Sunday. I'd put them way ahead of Remember the Titans. I'm sorry.
And I love to Remember the Titans.
Me too. Me too. My high school was Titans. Like, I mean, that was like we went to see that as a team in the movie theater. like there is a lot there, but there are other movies I'd put ahead of that. So
we took out my son's Pop Warner team to see Friday Night Lights when that first came out when I was coaching.
Yeah. Hey, Boobie Miles was a bad boy, man.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize that is a real guy.
That's a real dude, man. Hey, man, I appreciate you, Calvin, man. You take it easy.
All right, you all stay safe. Stay safe.
Likewise.
Stay to you and your family.
Just like you told me last time, you of all people need to stay safe, bro. Take care.
I am doing everything that I need to be doing. Thank you so much.
Take care.
All right, you too.
All right. I got a super chat, so I'll go ahead and take that. Appreciate you guys chopping it up with me tonight. And let's see. Got a super chat from my man JP. And I think I might have messed double up, but you tripling up at this point, JP. Or quadrupling up. I'm gonna just put up the 4 for you. 4 horsemen, 4 fingers. Hey, I appreciate you, JP. Whatever the case may be, my man JP writes, the criticism of Chase Young not playing well against Clemson is overblown because Dabo game planned for him. It's what the good coaches in high school, college football, and NFL do. Again, if you watched the Clemson game, then there's really not a discussion to be had. Chase Young did not play poorly in that game. I can't stress that enough. So for those of you that allude to that, like JP is doing here, I disagree with you vehemently. That's just me. I watched the game, and then I watched it live. All right. Nope, he didn't get any sacks. Nope, not many tackles for loss. But I saw him consistently harassing Trevor Lawrence in that game. So, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, I guess. And I thought it was another beautiful performance by Chase Young. So, no, he didn't have 2 sacks. He didn't disrupt the game. But he disrupted the game plan. And that's what elite players do. So, anyway, thank you for the super chat, JP. Greatly appreciate that. Gear Cell 1, double up, thank you for the super chat, doubling up, Gear Cell 1. I appreciate you. And Gear Cell writes, all those people criticizing Haskins is like reading Bill Cosby's book on dating. Give him a chance, because if he's right, we can build a strong team while on his rookie contract. All right, so that's how this is supposed to work, is that your greatest window of opportunity to win in this league is usually on your starting quarterback's rookie contract. It probably was the biggest and most wide open window the Seahawks had when Russell Wilson was on his rookie deal in Seattle. It probably was, let me see, some other teams that have young quarterbacks. The Chiefs' probably biggest window is now with Patrick Mahomes in this window, because once they pay him $200 and something million, which he's going to be the first quarterback to hit that status, it's going to lessen the amount of guys you're able to surround him with. Can't bring, unless guys are willing to take less. I know the salary cap is going up. That doesn't take away from the fact that you pay one guy $200 million and you're not going to be able to field a team full of Tyreek Hills. You're going to have to keep drafting well, is what you're going to have to keep doing. And so the window is usually never greater than the time you have during that 5-year stretch if that quarterback comes in, hits the ground running. All right. And we're going to get a chance to see if Dwayne in the next 3 years or so is able to give this team a legitimate shot. And I don't anticipate that happening this year or maybe even next. But by his 4th season in the league, I think this team will have a chance. By then, though, the Redskins will be, if he is what we think he can be, and he hits that ceiling that we're talking about, we'll be looking to re-up him at that point. And I don't want to say your window is closed at that point, but it becomes a lot harder because now you have to dance around a major salary that you're shelling out to your starting quarterback. So it can be done. Teams do it all the time. But like I said, the window, and like Gearcell eloquently said, the window of opportunity is its greatest when that quarterback is on his rookie deal. So you got to take advantage of it while you can. So thank you for the super chat, Gearcell 1. Ray Riley, double up, for my man Ray Riley. Thank you for the super chat, double R. And my man Ray writes, if Jalen Hurts is on the board at 66, should the Skins consider drafting him? No, I don't think that's the route. See, so here's the thought process behind that. Although Kyle Allen is not what I would deem a credible starting quarterback in this league, not at this point. Maybe he actually would be solid if given more opportunity. All right. I don't think his talent is as great as a Dwayne Haskins, but maybe if he got more opportunities, he could prove that he could start in this league. I don't want to discount that. But he's young, just like Dwayne. All right. He's not 22. I think he's like 25, but he still fits in this time frame that I've talked about with this team and what Rivera is building in Ron's plan. Ron's plan. It's a bunch of 20-somethings, a bunch of guys going into the prime of their careers, looking to keep them here during that time frame. And with those two young quarterbacks, you're not looking to add another one to the mix. All right. Again, if you think Dwayne's the guy, you don't want to draft a young guy and then that sector of the fan base that I talked about earlier tonight that doesn't like Dwayne, doesn't want to see him succeed, doesn't think he's the guy. Don't give them a reason to be every throw is a referendum on Dwayne Haskins and, man, get Jalen Hurts in there. No one wants that. That's the opposite of what we're trying to achieve here. If you want, and again, I talked about competition and competitiveness and all that. Again, the one position that I'm not necessarily looking for competition at is quarterback. All right, look around the league. Who's competing at quarterback? Not any of the good teams. All right, that's generally not how this works. You know the reason why the Chiefs traded Alex Smith? It's because they didn't want any competition with Patrick Mahomes. They didn't want him looking over his shoulder. Because had they said, all right, you know what, Patrick, guess what? We got Alex Smith here. We think you're better than him. We're going to let you guys go into camp and compete, and may the best man win. And Mahomes probably beats him out. But guess what? There would have still been a large sector of that fan base that if Mahomes got out of the gate, because remember, Alex Smith was winning 10, 11, 12 games every year in Kansas City. They were going to the playoffs. They were winning the division. All right? And there were still a lot of fans when he got traded here that loved Alex Smith and hated the fact that he left, but knew that Patrick Mahomes was the right guy for the job. And so had they created a competition and Mahomes won, but he comes out and he struggles early on, guess what? Fans are going to say, hey, put Alex Smith in. He doesn't turn it over. We win games with Alex Smith. But you know what they didn't want? They didn't want competition because that's not the position that you need to be fostering competition at. It's not healthy. You get your guy, you believe in your guy, and you push your guy out into the forefront, and you ride with your guy no matter what until you realize that's not my guy. So I'm not looking for competition. The reason Robert Griffin III felt threatened, the reason why the Cleveland game happened, the reason why there was a fallout between he and Kyle and Mike and everybody else involved was because they drafted another young quarterback and he felt threatened day one from Kirk Cousins. Even when there was no legitimate threat, He felt threatened because he wasn't confident enough. He wasn't confident enough in his abilities to know, I'm the guy. He needed that reassurance from everybody telling him he's the guy over and over again. Robert, you're so great. Robert, you're so great. Robert, you're so great. And the minute he wasn't in the starting lineup and they did some things with Kirk and he felt slighted and he was looking over his shoulder, why? You were still the guy. He wasn't confident because that position isn't one where competition is necessary, and it's not a position that competition is rewarded. You're not looking for competition at quarterback. So drafting a young guy isn't conducive to building Dwayne Haskins up. We've damaged him enough. Drafting a Jalen Hurts at 66 isn't a good idea. It's not a smart move. So no, if I'm the Redskins, that's not even something I'd be considering. And also looking at the rest of this football team, we don't have a second round pick as it currently stands. That 66th pick is a big one for us. You can't afford to be wasting it. That's drafting Jalen Hurts, especially if Dwayne Haskins develops into the way we think, you're wasting that pick. We could use that on a player that could come in and help us right now, which we definitely need. So I don't see that happening. And I don't think the Skins should consider him at 66. No, I don't. Thank you for the super chat, Ray Riley. Really appreciate that. All right. Got a call. Going to go ahead and take it. You're on live with your man, Louis T. Who am I speaking with?
Yo, Lou, how you doing, my man?
What's going on?
This is John.
What's up, John?
Yo, I have two topics I want to talk about, and they're all going to be rants, okay? The first one is going to be about this Dwayne Haskins issue you're talking about. I feel like one of the most toxic fan bases that I have ever seen in the history of football is this fan base. It's like we are split into two different sections. One section that wants something and the other that wants another, and always two functions are always fighting against each other. And if you are not doing well and I don't support you, that means I want you to do bad so that I can say that, oh, look, I told you he was not going to do well. Mm-hmm. What kind of stupidity is that? Mm-hmm. You call yourself a fan of a team and you can't even support the players of the team. Mm-hmm. What it just blows my mind. Mm-hmm. What kind of thinking this fan base has when it comes to the players of this team. Mm-hmm. It's annoying and it's appalling. Mm-hmm. Okay, it blows my mind. Mm-hmm. I understand that the reason why we don't support a lot of the things is because we haven't won. Okay, and winning brings good things. It makes everything feel better, and it makes everything look good. I can tell you right now that there are a lot of teams out there that have owners that are worse, front offices that are bad, but because they are winning, everybody is calm and everything is going on the way it's supposed to go. Because winning kills all. Okay, as soon as losing starts, you see a lot of things coming out from the crevices that you have never known about, and that's about the fans. That's what I want to. That's the first topic I want to talk about. Talk about fans. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is this notion about Daniel Snyder and why everybody hates him. It just blows my mind. Guys, get over yourselves. He's the owner of the team. You can't tell me that a CEO of a company who owns the company is not going to want to be in the daily, the daily intake of the company. How can you tell me that if you own a business, you don't want to know what is going on in the business? You don't want to be involved in what is going on in the business? You don't want to be told by the people that you have hired to put things in place? You don't want them to report back to you? You understand? That is so, it just blows my mind. Like, are you people, are you serious? If I own something and I'm the boss, yes, I want to stay afar. But if you are not involving me, that's why this team has not done well. Okay, because you have front office people, you have coaches who want to do things their way. That's fine. You should do things your way. But to say that you're going to totally alienate the owner of a team, it's not going to happen. Okay. We're talking about Joe Gibbs. You were talking about Joe Gibbs now. Now, I remember Joe Gibbs kept saying something about Jack Ken Cook, okay, the owner back then when he was the owner, was very involved.
Yep.
And he used to, like, all the time, even when he first came into this team and he first lost those 5 games, you know, the owner was always in his face. You understand? Always talking to him in the face like, yo, I took this opportunity on you, but you have to correct this thing. There is no, and good thing I just remember this right now. I remember when we had Rivera run, and there was one interview that Joe Gibbs did. I don't remember which station it was, but there was the same question about the owner's involvement in everything, and he told the people, the interviewers, that look, it's a stupid notion that we have to take Dan Snyder out of the issue, because if any coach, okay, of a team is going to tell you that I don't want the owner to be in the business, that's kind of stupid. You have to make sure that at least he knows what is going on so that he can support you. But cutting him out of the whole issue, the whole thing, is something that is going to make things worse. You understand? And that is why it blows my mind that you guys, not you per se, but I'm saying like a lot of this fan base, it's so crazy about Dan Snyder. Man, get over it. He's the owner of the team. There's nothing you can do, and he has to be involved. Okay? That's it. Yo, man, I hope I didn't rant too much, man.
Hey, nah, I actually agree with a lot of what you said, man. And I know where you're coming from, especially the two factions of the fan base and one wanting to be right. And even if that comes at the expense of, you know, the team and specific players, that drives me insane, man. I can't stand that whatsoever. But, hey, I appreciate the call, John, man. I appreciate you.
All right, man. Take care of yourself, man. Make sure you're doing the right things, man. Just wash your hands, you know, do all the right things, all right?
Definitely. Likewise. Take care.
All right, man. Love you, man. You take care.
Likewise. All right, man. That was a great call because a lot of what he said, I agree with him wholeheartedly. Like the whole two factions of the fan base thing drives me insane. I've said that for a long time. You know, some people are more concerned with being proven right than actually wanting to see this team succeed. Which, what kind of sense does that make? We're all supposed to be here for one common goal, that's to see this team win. How we arrive there, you may agree to disagree, but at the end of the day, we should all be rooting for the same thing. And sometimes I don't feel like that's the case, you know, but that's nor here nor there. The whole Dan Snyder thing, that's a totally separate issue. Some people, you can feel the way John feels. The NFL is totally different than, you know, running a Fortune 500 company. You know, absolutely that guy should be involved if you're running General Mills or something like that. You know what I mean? But when you're running an NFL franchise, especially if you don't actually know the ins and outs of the business and what it takes to build a winner, I think what more of the fan base is talking about when regards to Daniel Snyder and a lot of these NFL owners, and he made a very valid point that winning is the best deodorant. It cures all. You know, it could be a lot of funk going on behind the scenes, but if you win, it freshens it up. But eventually when you lose, that funk comes to the forefront, like in Denver, for instance. When he first got there, it was great. You know, man, they're winning. They won a Super Bowl, got Peyton Manning. This is awesome. And then eventually everybody's like, man, John Elway actually stinks at this. Like, he can't find a quarterback, even though he was a great quarterback himself. This roster, it's good. It's not great. These offensive linemen aren't the best that they're picking. Like, he's not all that great at his job. And they haven't been winning, and so it kind of came to the forefront. And now they're like, hey, John, you need to win, bro. We'd hate to oust the legend, but you ain't taking care of business. And, you know, I think here with the Redskins, with the ownership, I think it's more of a situation where people are like, look, man, we've seen this guy be meddlesome. We've seen this guy want to have too much involvement. And Dan Snyder's not a football guy. He's not. And most owners aren't. Some of them are. Most of them aren't. So I'm not saying cut him out of the day-to-day operations. That's not what I'm saying. Some people don't want him to have anything to do with the team. That's, like he said, that's unreasonable, okay? That's unreasonable. But what is reasonable is to ask him to take a step back and allow the guys that you hired, who are football guys, to do their jobs without you meddling in their affairs. All right? If they need your help, they'll ask you for it. But and there's nothing wrong with him wanting to know what's going on. Again, he owns the team. That's natural. If I own something, I'd like to know what's going on. If I own a stock, I'd like to know how my stock is doing. All right, I want to be active in selling and trading shares of that stock. All right? I want to be active in that. I own it. But at the same time, if I don't know what the hell is going on and someone's trying to tell me what I should do that is in the know, maybe I should take a step back with that stock and say, you know what? Maybe you're right. It may be a risk that I'm taking, but I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Maybe I'll let you do what's right with this stock. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you're fired. That's how it goes. So, and that's how NFL goes. You know, that's how you handle your stockbroker. If you are able to double, triple my money, if you are able to give me great stock advice, hey, I'll keep you on board. We can make money together. If not, you're fired. That's how it works in an NFL franchise. And that's what more Redskins fans are asking for from Daniel Snyder. Not that you just totally hire someone and then sail off to France, never to be heard from again. But, hey, let these guys do their job. You don't tell them who to draft. Like that report last year that he essentially took over the draft board in the first round and said, hey, I know you guys have been working around the clock for an entire year to set up this draft board. And you think we should take Brian Burns with this 15th pick. I have a better idea. Forget about all the work you've done for a whole year. Let's take Dwayne Haskins. That's what we'll do. That's what we're talking about. You can't do that. Yes, you own the team. And you can do whatever the hell you want. But that's how you continue to stew in 20 years of losing and continue to further that in years to come. Moves like that. Now, he may ultimately be proven right. And the last caller, or the caller before John, said that he wasn't a huge Haskins fan. Neither was I. And everything that he said, spot on. I've said in the past, I didn't think he was that athletic. He showed me something. And Dwayne even said himself, talking to John Keim, he even said, look, I dropped a bunch of weight. I shed a lot of body fat to get into better shape, to be more of an athlete. He's even admitted that himself. So we weren't wrong in saying that we didn't really see the athleticism at Ohio State because it didn't exist then. There was a little tad bit, but not like what we saw last year. This guy was moving around. This guy was scrambling, extending plays. All right. He may ultimately be right, but that's not how we want him running the team. You taking over the draft board in the first round and saying, this is what we're going to do. Let the football guys handle what you paid and hired them to do. And that's, I think, more of the stance people are trying to take. Not necessarily hire people and then move out the way and don't say nothing. Just sit in the corner, don't say nothing, and we will take care of it. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying, hey, you hired these dudes, let them do their job. If they need you, they'll ask for your help. And it's fine if you want to know what's going on, down to the finest minute detail. They can divulge that information to you. But at the end of the day, let these guys do their job. And he hasn't always been the best at that. Anyway, let's get to a super chat. Believe I saw one here, and I did. And it's from Gally Sanford. What's going on, Gally Sanford? Really appreciate the super chat. Appreciate you, Gally. And Gally writes, sprinkle me one time. He says, sorry for being late, but I wanted to show some support to family. What's your dream starting defense next year? Sprinkle me, bitch. Sprinkle me. All right, so I got your Jeremy Sprinkle out of the way. Now to your question. He says, what's your dream starting defense next year? Okay. I don't know if I can complete my dream defense because I don't know if all the pieces to my dream defense are on the roster right now. But if we're just going off of the pieces that we have, this is what it would look like. You would have Chase Young, and yes, I'm counting Chase Young on the roster already because I fully expect the Redskins to select him at number 2. Anything less would be uncivilized. Chase Young at one end, and you would have Montez Sweat at the other. You'll have the 2 Bama boys, the Bama Wall on the inside, Allen and Payne, and you'd have Ioannidis as like the 6th man. Like he is the 6th man of the year. If he were in the NBA, he would win the 6th man of the year award for us. Like he's going to be the first guy off the bench. And I honestly, if he played more snaps than say Payne or Allen or whomever you think is the guy that offers you less in the pass game, maybe it's Payne. I would be totally fine with that. But anyway, those 4 are your starters. Ioannidis is like a sub-starter, so throw him in there. But okay, those guys are your front 4. I would have. So I heard this recently, and I think it was the John Keim podcast. But Reuben Foster struggled in communicating the defense in San Francisco. So I don't know if he's a real candidate for middle linebacker, which is fine. Because he'd make a hell of a weak side linebacker. Okay? So, Reuben Foster as your weak side backer. Cole Holcomb as your middle linebacker. Thomas Davis as your strong side backer. All right? Those, and Thomas Davis, Ryan Anderson, whatever. Those guys will probably be in and out of the lineup. If Thomas Davis is still playing at as high a level as people think, Thomas Davis wins that all day, every day. And so those would be my 3 backers. All right. Then you get to the secondary. This is when it gets a little dicey. This is where I say I don't know if my full secondary is here or not. But, okay, we'll go with the guys that we have. You got Moreau. And let's say that we are coming out in our base package, which means no nickel. All right. Now, in a nickel, I think I would kick Kendall inside and I would add in a Darby outside. But for the sake of this discussion, let's just say there is no nickel. You got 2 corners, 2 safeties. I would go Moreau on one side because I am fascinated by his late season play last year outside after the failed experiment inside. So I would take Moreau. I want to see what Moreau with a full work of offseason, which isn't technically going to be a full season of work outside, but the confidence of knowing I'm going to start outside, I want to roll with that at one corner. I'm going Kendall Fuller at the other corner. And then obviously the safeties would be Sean Davis at one safety at free, and really they should be interchangeable, and Landon Collins at strong safety. So that would be my starting 11 right now as it stands. I'd like to upgrade corner if I could. I wouldn't mind the Redskins doing something at backer, just to reinforce it. But right now, or if they even did something at safety to upgrade that, I wouldn't be opposed to that. But right now, as it stands, that would be my starting 11 right there. So thank you for the super chat. Gally Sanford, really appreciate that. Thank you for that super chat. Got another super chat. This one from my man, Derek B. Thank you for the super chat, Derek B. Greatly appreciated, Derek B. My man, Derek writes, no Daron Payne rant this year. Predator, HTTR, baby. Nah, unless something goes awry at number 2, which even the most untrustworthy a fan that is untrustworthy of the organization, or untrusting, of the organization, that thinks that this organization can do nothing right. And the most cynical fan, even that fan can't think that they're going to mess up number 2. Even if they were to trade out of 2, they're not messing it up as much as they're just doing something I don't agree with. But they're getting value. Now, what that value turns out to be is anybody's guess. But I would be more stunned than irate. I was irate when the Redskins passed up on the talents that they did to take Daron Payne. I was irate. I wouldn't be irate. I'd be shocked. I almost would be speechless. And I like to talk. It's hard to make me speechless, but I think I might actually be at a loss for words. If anything other than the Redskins turning in the card or calling Goodell or however this is going to happen this year and them announcing that Chase Young is the pick at 2, I think I'd be stunned if anything other than that takes place. So you won't get too many rants out of me because I feel like I know what the team is going to do. And I feel confident in saying that. So we'll see what happens. I see some of your comments about this team and the linebackers. I want to see guys get opportunities, but I think the guys that I have the most confidence in at this moment would be the guys that I listed. But I'd like to see some Sean Dion, and give him an opportunity. I've said every time he's on the field, good things happen. He seems to be in the right place at the right time. I'd like to see more of him, But that's the problem you have when you bring a guy like Thomas Davis on the roster is that he's going to play, He's a leader and he's going to play. So I think Sean Dion's more of a weak side backer. I don't think he's a strong side backer anyway. So, if there's any issues with Ruben, I think then you would insert Sean Dion. But I don't think Sean Dion's a strong side backer. I don't think that's his niche in this league. So Ryan Anderson is more of a strong side backer. And, I think he's going to play. I think they have a role for him. It's going to be so fascinating to see what they do with this defense because I think there's a little something to Ryan Anderson off the edge in some subs. Maybe you could do that with him. I still believe that the 7th round pick, Jordan Brailford, out of Oklahoma State, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I think there's something there. I think the Redskins prematurely put him on IR last year because they didn't have a roster spot for him and they didn't want to lose him. So the easiest way to keep him on the roster, keep him on bubble wrap was to just put him on IR. I think that was an injury he could have healed in a month on, and they could have put him on PUP and then brought him back. But I think they said there's no space on the roster for him, and they slapped that IR tag on him to keep him around. I want to see what he's got, man, because the guy I watched on tape fits perfectly into a 4-3 defense. Really, he might have been more suited for a 3-4 as a stand-up outside backer, but that's nor here nor there. I think he can rush from a 2-point stance or a 3-point stance as well as he can a 2-point stance. Either way, I think there's some juice there with him. And so I want to see how they play around with the guys that we have because I think I'm going to be really disappointed if there's not some kind of sub package where Kerrigan kicks inside and you've got Sweat, you've got Young, you've got Kerrigan and Ioannidis like all on the field at once. Or even take Ioannidis off the field and you add in Anderson or, somebody like that, and you've got a bunch of guys that can just get after the quarterback all in one package. Like, I'm going to be really disappointed because I think they can do something like that with the talent that we have. So, we'll see what happens. Anyway, another super chat from, make sure there's not one over that one, from Gally Sanford. Double up, from Gally Sanford. Thank you for the super chat and doubling up, Gally Sanford. Really appreciate that. Gally writes, I don't know how we do this year. All I care about is beat Dallas twice and whip Philly's butt. Those are lofty expectations, all right? I remember we had a nice little streak against Philly going where we beat them like 5 or 6 times straight. Now, we can't buy a victory versus the Eagles. I think since Wentz has taken over, it's been a nightmare. It really has. I don't know if we've beaten Carson Wentz as the Eagles starter yet. I think he's swept us every single year he's played. I want to say that Wentz was drafted back in 15 or was it was 16, I believe. Wentz was drafted in 16. And since that draft, I think the Eagles have beaten us twice every year since then. We may have gotten them once somewhere in there, but I know in the last 2 or 3 years we haven't beaten the Eagles. So I'd like to end that streak pronto. And then beating Dallas, when's the last time we've beaten Dallas twice in a season? I mean, it just doesn't happen. Even in 2015 when the Cowboys were awful, we still let them come to our place on a Monday night with Matt Cassell at quarterback. And remember that was the Deshaun Jackson fumbled punt. He kicked backwards. We let them come in there and beat us. Like, I can't tell you the last time we beat the Cowboys twice in a season. Like, that's almost impossible for us to do at this point. I'd love nothing more than to beat them twice, but we can't seem to get that done. So, while it sounds good, highly unlikely. But no problem with them going out and trying to get that done. You know, doesn't hurt. Doesn't cost you anything to try and beat them twice. Anyway, we've been at it now for over 2 hours, so we will get out of here. I appreciate you guys. I know we beat them twice in 2012. I remember Griffin coming off an injury. I think the game after the Cleveland game was the Eagles game in Philly. He wasn't totally healthy, but he came back and led us to victory. I remember him throwing a corner route to Santana Moss for a touchdown. I think that proved to be the difference maker in that game. I don't know if we've swept them since then. I could be wrong. Yeah, but we weren't very good the next year, so highly unlikely we swept them in 13. We weren't very good in 14, so highly unlikely we swept them then. We beat them in Philadelphia to clinch the division in 2015, but not sure if we beat them in Washington that first game. Probably didn't, if I had to guess. 16 is when they drafted Wentz, and it's been downhill ever since. So I'd like to say you probably got to go all the way back to 2012, if I had to guess. Last time we swept the Eagles. Last time we swept the Cowboys. Whew, man. Might have to go back to that same 2012 season. Might have to go back to that same 2012 season, man. A lot of memories in 2012. Obviously, we beat him on Thanksgiving. That is, to this day, my favorite Thanksgiving Redskins game. I don't know if that can be topped. So many emotions that night. We'll talk about that another time. I've already talked to you guys about that, but I know you guys are always down to talk about that game. But that was fun. Then obviously the Week 17 win, and you're in clincher. Alfred Morris, 30 carries, 200 yards. That's an all-timer. Robert on one leg, essentially doing those boys. Rob Jackson with a big pick of Tony Romo. Oh, the good old days. We didn't sweep them in 13. Obviously, I think we were like a 4-12 team. Or 13 the next year. 14, that was Gruden's first year. We weren't sweeping anybody. 15, I already told you we lost to them on that Monday night game, and they were awful that year. I'd like to think that since they've gotten Dak, he's another one that's pretty much kicked our ass every year. I don't think we've beaten him very many times. I know we did beat him, unlike Wentz, where I can't think of a time we've beaten Carson Wentz. I do know that we've beaten Dak in Washington in 2018 on the missed field goal, the doink game, where Dak fumbled and Kerrigan scooped it in the end zone. Preston Smith got the sack, or was it the other way around? I think Kerrigan ended up scooping that up and scoring. Might have been Kerrigan with the sack and Preston Smith with the scoop and score. Either way, that's the last time we beat the Cowboys. Anyway, I don't think we've beaten them since then. They've won 3 in a row because that was the first game in 18. And then they beat us the last game in 18, and then they swept us in 19. So anyhow, super chat from Gally Sanford once again, tripling up. Thank you for the super chat, Gally Sanford. Appreciate you. Gally writes, okay, family, Keep safe. He says, be safe. Keep support up. Hey, no doubt. I appreciate you for that, man. And thank you again for the super chat. Farrah Cody says, we swept the Eagles in 2016 with Wentz. If that is in fact true, that's when he was a rookie. I'll take it any way I can get it. I don't remember us beating Wentz twice. I remember Wentz starting off really hot that year. They were 3-0. Then they had a bye week. And then things kind of went downhill from there. I'm trying to think. 2016, we weren't a bad team in 16. We should have made the playoffs. So it's not inconceivable that we beat the Eagles twice. I don't remember us beating them twice that year. I know the Giants stopped us from making the playoffs that year. I know in 17, we lost the season opener to the Eagles. Or was it 16? I think it was 17. We lost the season opener. Because 16, the season opener was the Steelers. And they embarrassed us on Monday night. And then 17 was the season opener. That was the game that I didn't think it was a fumble late when Kirk got hit. And they scoop and scored that. I think it was Fletcher Cox scoop and scored that one. Put the game out of reach. I remember that was the beginning of Wentz tearing us a new asshole, because that was the game, if I'm not mistaken, that he scrambled around. We thought we sacked him. He scrambled around for 20 yards and then hit Nelson Aguilar for a big one. Yeah, that was 17. So maybe we got Wentz in 16. Maybe you're right. Anyway, that's going to do it. For me, your man, Louis T, I thank you guys for all of the support. Tonight was a great show. It really was. A lot of great discussions. We got to talk Haskins, which was really eating at me. We talked Bobby Mitchell early. May he rest in paradise, man. All-time great Redskin. All-time great human being. And we talked about a lot of things in between. So thank you guys for this great, awesome show. Looking forward to doing this again next week. I think next week we will be more in the draft mode. And like I said, either next week's show or the week after, I will have a handcrafted 7-round Redskins mock draft that I'll share. You guys can pick apart, destroy, agree, and maybe even have your own. So looking forward to that. I'll give you more details. If I'm ready to present my 7-round mock next week, I'll let you know in advance so you can bring yours if you have one, and we can chop it up. So I thank you guys once again for supporting the show. Thank you for all the comments, all the super chats, all the support, all the participation. Make sure you like this video. Subscribe to the Louis T Network if you guys haven't already done so. Looking forward to chopping it up with you guys in the future. And remember, tomorrow we're live again. This time we're talking 2020 NFL Draft live here on the Louis T Network, as we'll be breaking down both the tight end and offensive line positions. So be here for that. Hopefully you guys will join me and we'll be able to chop it up and talk about those positions in the draft. So with that being said, I am a Redskins fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Redskins spirit will never die. Redskins spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, hail to our beloved Washington Redskins. And I thank you guys for joining me on the rebound. I know it was a rough start. We had to restart the stream, and I had to do that. I know some of you were like, you didn't have to restart it. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. You may not understand the reasoning behind it, but I had to restart it. So I thank you guys for powering through the technical difficulties early on and coming back and chopping it up with me. And you guys stay safe out there. All right. Most importantly, stay safe, keep your family safe, and we'll reconvene sooner rather than later. Adios. Mañana. You guys have a good one.